Hey guys, welcome to Layman's Terms Podcast, a place where we talk about really big topics using the smallest words possible. I'm Danny the bartender.
And I'm Tommy the trash man.
And together we're just two guys trying to explain the ever-changing world around us the only way that we know how.
So what's going on, guys? Thank you for joining us again. We have a very special guest with us today, our man Jay. King Poe, thank you for coming back, Jay.
Welcome back, Jay.
No doubt, man. Happy to be here.
Good. But before
we popular demand too.
Yes. But before we get started, JD, are you a coffee drinker?
Oh, am I a coffee drinker?
Yeah.
I'm becoming one.
You become one? I'll tell you what.
One.
I didn't start. I know Danny is. I didn't start till I was like 27, 28, because I felt like as you get a little bit older, you need a little bit more extra push in the day. You know what I mean? You need a little bit more boost. And I had to drink a couple cups today. Very special shout out to Fatherhood Coffee Company. A very good friend of mine started this company. It's small batch specialty coffee. You can find him at Fatherhood Coffee on Instagram. Check out the website. I had the dark roast today. It was delicious. So definitely check that out, man. And if you're a coffee drinker, you won't be disappointed. It's a small business. He just started out. So it's worth checking out and helping out a good friend of mine. And anytime we can support small businesses, that's a fantastic thing.
All right. So, shout out to Fatherhood Coffee.
Yes. And with that being said, Jay, man, it's great to see you. How's everything down in Atlanta?
Everything's great, man. Everything's great.
So
Gas
you guys,
a little high.
Well, yeah, man. That seems about that's where they at in Atlanta?
I think we was at 3. Last time I checked, what is it? I think we bought about 350.
Oh shit, you're still a little bit cheaper than we are.
Okay.
I paid $368 2 days ago, and now it is $387.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I thought it was 350 here. It was like 2 days ago.
No,
so I don't know.
The place right at the corner from me is where I usually go, and it's $387. So things are getting a little bit tight. It wasn't talked about too much on the State of the Union address last night.
Well, because they're going to they're for defund the police and your borders now. I don't know what the hell's going on.
Well, Jay reached out to us. He had a few things he wanted to talk about. So Jay, with one of the things you talked about was the inflation and all that stuff. Did you happen to watch any of that presidential address last night?
I couldn't catch it last night, but I know I seen that on Instagram. I know people was talking about how he switched his stance to defund the police and tougher immigration. But you can catch me up to speed on it. I couldn't catch it last night.
Well, I know you watched it. Me and Bender were watching it, texting each other a couple times.
Okay.
What did you think, Dan?
Oh, it's exactly what I thought they were going to do. They flipped everything around. And the sad part is certain people like us can see that. And it's definitely, I would think it would put you in a bad category, but I bet you any amount of money, people are going to be, arguing that's what we were all about all along or whatever. It's not the case, man. They're switching their stance up for the midterms. That's the only thing that just happened.
Well, the funny thing that I thought was they kind of sounded like Republicans in a lot of way,
kind of like Trump's speech.
All of a sudden, Biden was like, make, America first, buy American, support America, blah, 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 blah. And, we don't want to defund the police. We have to fund the police.
And then the whole room's like clapping, like as if like, oh, thank God. Finally somebody said it. Like Democrats were doing that. Like, it's like, no, you guys have been saying the opposite.
Yeah. So I was a little bit taken back and I was like, what
Well-
what am I listening to right now?
Well, here's what threw me off of all the stuff. Like, we can all sit there and you can make any argument you want about them all not wearing masks. I'm glad they're not wearing masks. However, just the day before, Biden's walking to the helicopter on a fucking 5-minute walk by himself with a mask on. Then mask was optional. So my thing is, listen, I'm glad they weren't wearing masks, but this isn't a room full of people who have been hoping and praying that one day they could take the masks off of, they're the ones that have been saying that they want them on. So if you made it optional, if you look at the way people have been pushing that policy, and if you turn around and you say, make it optional, like at my bar where I work, it's optional, but every once in a while, somebody will still wear a mask. It's like you're looking at a room full of people who shouted and demanded that we needed to wear the mask. And then when it becomes optional, not one person wanted to wear a mask that day. I don't know if that makes sense, but to me, that's something that I saw where it's like, how do you just go overnight? Oh, the science completely changed now, so take the mask off. Yesterday was bad. Today's good.
Yeah. What kind of like really struck me was it was maybe a month ago and only a couple weeks ago that if you were in Congress and you were not wearing a mask, Nancy Pelosi was going to fine you.
That's what I'm trying to say.
It's a matter of a couple weeks, and now she's on TV not wearing a mask. Kamala Harris not wearing a mask. Joe Biden's not. The majority of people there. There was somebody sitting there, kind of behind all of them that had a mask on.
But like you said, somebody, like one person.
Yeah.
Right.
Which again, they said it was optional, but I'm like, this is a joke. Like only a couple weeks ago, you were fining people for not doing it. So like, what the hell is going on?
Well, and I guess to make my point of what I'm saying is like yesterday we were looking at like Kamala Harris kissing her husband with a mask on. So I'm not trying to I'm not knocking the fact that they didn't have a mask on, but like, wouldn't you think somebody with that kind of attitude about a mask might have just worn one? So it's like, it's just so clear. Like, in other words, it's pretty clear to me that they in unison decide like, okay, here's what we're doing today. Today, we're not wearing masks. We're saying fund the police. We're for secure borders. Like, bro, I don't know, man. If you see it the way I see it, it's almost mind-blowingly clown world absurd.
No, absolutely. And the thing about it is like, even if you disagree, like if you're someone that is for defunding the police, let's say, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then you go and hear this, like, does it not register in your head? Like, these motherfuckers will just say anything because clearly the numbers, like their polls, Democrats are polling just horribly. So they know that they have to switch up their stance. They know they got to change their opinion on COVID. They know they got to change their opinion on the police. I don't even know. Oh, the border, that's another thing. So like they have to do it. Otherwise, they're not going to get back in power.
Well, and the other thing too is like, let's just take the border thing, for example. You can't say you're for a secure whatever board. Like you went in and you're like, the reason why it's not secure is because of your stance on the border.
Right.
Like,
Right.
You know what I mean? But now I think the one test to tell, like you just said, is I think like, see, what scares me is those Democrats out there that just like, I don't know. I just find myself getting these arguments where they'll literally be saying like, we never were for defund the police. But the question that I want to see, which might hurt them, there is a test to be said to it, is like, how does AOC and Ilhan Omar move forward now? Are they going to act like they never said defund the police and or secure border stuff? You know what I mean? Like, are they like, see, this is what I mean about the Democrats that I think is different is like, they'll start fighting in party, which will still hurt them with this kind of a rhetoric,
Well, there's plenty of Republicans that'll be bickering, and I've been seeing a lot of that even after CPAC.
No, well, they always do, but I'm talking about like, will like, in other words, they always bicker. They've been bickering since Trump came into office.
Right.
I'm saying I haven't seen any of them say I like Trump or I don't like Trump and then act like they do the next day and back and forth, at least while he's been out of office. What I'm saying is AOC, her whole thing is she's progressive. They are progressive. They got in the position where they're at because they said things like defund the police and open up the border. That's her whole thing. Is she going to be a moderate now moving into the, and I'm not saying that they can't play with the words a little bit, but I want to see where they go with it. Because if you ask me, honestly, there's a lot of Democrats who lose their identity if they get behind, like if AOC follows a moderate kind of, campaign, she totally loses her identity. Her whole thing is, I'm, defund the police and.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't care where you really stand anymore, if you're Republican or Democrat. We're seeing, like, in real time, like how quickly messages change from these politicians in order to retain power.
Correct.
And what's crazy is, again, like even going back to the COVID policies, like I just saw, like on Friday, the CDC revised its COVID risk formula. So with the single change, the pandemic abruptly eased, going from 90% of the United States in high risk red to less than 30%. So how did that happen?
But the best part about it is, I mean, I haven't been following like the numbers and stuff like that, but aren't the numbers like just as high as they've ever been for COVID? I mean, maybe not right now. So I'm not like going to whatever, but
no, because they even changed the reporting standards. You know what I'm saying? So even that, like now, I guess there's certain, I don't know exactly how they determine what they can report or what they should report. Like for instance, if you break your leg, you go into the hospital and they test you and you have COVID, they're not reporting that now as a COVID case because you're not showing any symptoms. You're not there for COVID. You're there for your broken leg.
Well, I'm going to go back to maybe back to the unpopular opinion, but it was all bullshit. It was all complete bullshit from the beginning.
Well, Jay, did you ever have COVID?
That's the crazy part. I haven't had it since 2020. I've never had it.
All right. Well, me neither. Danny's unsure. Danny might have got it.
Everyone around me got it. So here's the thing. I was sick. I was the same sick as them. It wasn't fun, but it was just sick. And if I didn't get it, well, then I'm not going to get it then. I mean, my whole entire bar got it. And I was working side by side with the people. So, I mean, I'm actually pretty sure I got it. But I mean, what was the purpose of me getting tested? It was just being sick. It was weird. The weirdest part about it was some weird shit happened in my ear that still comes and goes even right now, where my ear was clogged up for like over a month.
Yeah. So did anybody in your family, any close friends or anything get it, Jay?
Friends, yes. Family members, no. I have a friend. Well, I did have a friend. They lost over 5 during the pandemic, 2020. They lost about 5 family members to it.
Really?
So they got hit pretty hard by it.
Well, I'm assuming they were older people.
That a couple of them were old. I didn't know about all of them, but a couple of them were older, like grandparents and stuff like that.
Yeah. And now, so being down in Atlanta, I remember the last time we had you on, you were like things only for like a month, but for the most part, things were just regular,
normal. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's so crazy. Like, I mean, back in, I want to say August, maybe September, I'm going into the city to go eat, and like there were places asking me for vaccination cards. And I'm like, dude, this is crazy. And now that's all changed. So I have a buddy that works at the stadiums who was saying, oh, you going to the Sixers game tonight? And I'm like, nah, man, they're still checking. He's like, nah, everything, no masks, no nothing.
But isn't that hilarious?
It was all for nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. And here's the best part, man. And I'll tell you something too. I don't care if people like, I'm not trying to sit here and constantly point out things or whatever, but I said it to everyone. I said, don't quit your job find a way to get away for 3 months because this is all going to flip around. And think about it. Like, when did they enforce the passports? When did they actually start enforcing them? Like, Baltimore was supposed to enforce it on March 1st. And then it just now it's actually going away. You know what I mean? Like, people, my friends were being told, yeah, March 1st, anybody with over 100 people at their thing. So I had I had a couple of friends who were like prepared to lose their job. But isn't it so funny how it went from like how was it like? It's just all baloney, bro. It's baloney.
So
And
well, I'm sorry to cut you off, but that is my question. So do all those people that they fired over now to get the vaccine, do they bring them back, or how does that go?
Well, I did like, it's all over the place, but Disney asked people that they fired to come back. But, I don't want to speak on anyone specifically, but I have a family member right now who's going to probably win a case because so she did everything I told her to do. Where I just remember when I was saying, make them fire you. Like, in other words, I think what happened with a lot of people where they might not have a case is like their job said, you're going to have to quit by Friday, blah, 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 blah. And I was like telling my cousin, I'm like, no, go to work and tell them to make you go home. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, don't say, okay, whatever, and then not come in. And then it's kind of like you made that choice. And so she never signed like they were like trying to get it. Like, you got to sign these papers. Then I think she even left stuff at the office because the only way that they would allow her to get the stuff from the office would be to sign the papers, And then she put in this request, but just the best part is it ain't like some activist lawyer took her case. She just went to like the labor, whatever, like whatever the labor dispute center or whatever. And they contacted her and was like, yep, you have a case. And it like a case that they have to take for her without charging her because that's just kind of within the law. And once she went to try and get this case done, like 3 months later, her job was contacting her like, hey, we really want to give you your stuff back. Can you come back and sign this paperwork so we can give it to you? Like, clearly trying to get out of, any type of legal action. And now they're going into is it mediation? But so, I mean, it doesn't make it like, think about it. Like, all they did was she worked at her job for 14 years. 3 months ago, they told her to go home because of vaccination. Now because of she needed to be vaxxed. And here we are 3 months later, that's gone, and she's in a court case about being fired over it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I lost my part-time job because of it. I signed a paper, but I read over it and there really wasn't anything, at least that I thought was legally binding. That was like, I didn't say like I'm quitting or anything like that. So, but at the same time, it was at a retirement home. So I kind of understand, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I was going to say, I felt like you just kind of like in your situation, in that situation, it was understood. I think if something happened to you at the job, at your job, you'd have been pissed off.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Especially because again, we worked straight through the pandemic. There was we didn't take off. We didn't, you know what I'm saying? So
like, what about all the nurses and everything?
Well, yeah. I have no idea. Like, that's crazy. Like, even the guy that I said that works down the stadium, they were requiring that you had to be vaccinated. So there was a lot of people that got fired. Or they didn't actually fire them. They just said, we're not scheduling you. So there was no reason for them to come in, but they're so short-staffed that he's like, I don't know, they might be asking them to come back now. You know what I mean? Like, so it's crazy.
But like, I'll tell you something right now. If anybody, I don't know, do you mind me asking, Jay, did you get vaxxed?
I did get vaccinated in 2020.
You did?
I think, was it 2020? Yeah, I got back. So yeah.
Did you do the boosters?
No.
Yeah, I'd say I would, if I could advise you anything, I would just say not because I think it's some demonic thing, but I mean, what more do you need to be boosted up from at this point? Either, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So.
And dude, you're still young. Like, how old are you again? Like 27?
28.
28. Yeah. So he's still a young buck, bro.
And the crazy part about, because the only reason I got the vaccine for one reason. I felt like that's where at that time, that's what it looked like the world was going, where they were going to force you, if you want to go to a sport event, restaurant, or anything like that. So I was like, might as well get it so I don't have to.
Yeah, no, and there was also a time where I was like, I mean, I won't sit here and say that I was ever 100% positive that I was making the right choice. You know what I mean? Or feel that even. I mean, like I said, like personally now, I do feel like the whole thing was bullshit. You know, but I think that there was, I don't want to get into my fucking Alex Jones stuff, but I do feel like there was some type of virus, and like you said, like you had somebody that lost like 5 people from it. I think like like, look, I mean, I don't know if I can say this on here or whatever, but like if I had to theorize something for like a movie or something, it's like they were trying to make something that they didn't really have it wasn't where it needed to be, and it got out. Maybe it got out on purpose. Maybe it got out by accident, and they didn't know what it was going to do. And it seems to have one kind of effect on a very large population, but then there's a unique class of population who knows what that means. Like it could be not just genetics, of some kind. It doesn't mean anybody's lesser or more, but there's like people out there, I guess, that just can't handle this virus. You know what I mean? Like it seems like you could be 22 and 99.7% of the people that get it are like, it's a little bit of a cold. And then there's people that are getting their legs cut off because they got it,
Yeah, dude, it's wild. I mean,
yeah.
but that's the thing though. It's almost like anything in life. You know what I'm saying? Like any kind of sickness, you can get cancer at 18 and die. And then a 65-year-old who gets it survives. Like, which doesn't even make sense. Like you would think the 18-year-old, but this shit just happens. And then statistically speaking, the majority of the time, the 18-year-old that gets cancer is going to survive.
Well, yeah, but here's what I'll say with I mean, I'm not. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm not. What I'm going to say isn't an argument, but I guess to more clarify what I meant, it's like it's like basically we all know and can have a conversation about cancer and say that that's true. We can say what you just said is true because it's true. But for some reason, the pandemic, they never wanted to tell you that. Like, in other words, for some reason, the pandemic, they wanted you to believe that we were all going to die if we didn't do vaccinations and masks and whatever else. And I don't believe that they knew that. I don't believe that they really felt that. Clearly, if they felt that, there would have been more masks scattered around that State of the Union address yesterday.
Right.
And as I've said on here before, if you really look back, there was never any real fear. Like, just start with Nancy Pelosi, who's telling you need to wear a mask or, blah, 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 blah. And then, but yet when she's going to the hair salon, she's not wearing a mask. Now, the hypocrisy of it is hypocrisy, yes. But what I see when I see that is, aren't you scared? Like, if I told you two guys right now, don't you dare go outside that house without wearing a mask because you'll get sick. If you saw me then walk outside without a mask, it's not that you would say, oh, listen to him, that he's a no, you would then have to think maybe he doesn't fear it like he's trying to make me fear it.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Because I would assume that if somebody's that fearful of something that they're demanding, the only time I ever scream at the top of my lungs for someone else to please listen to me and do as I say, it's because I 100% believe that that this is something that needs to be done to protect people, and they may not be listening to me. However, if I'm screaming that, I'm also living that in every situation.
Yeah, I mean, dude, the whole situation is crazy. Everything about it, even like Biden last night was talking about, we need to come together as Americans. We need to deal with this appropriately, but we can't live in fear anymore. And I'm like, dude, you were just a couple months ago, you were telling me I was gonna die. It was the summer, or it was the winter of death that was approaching. Like, so,
no, and I will never forget that.
Yeah, like you're the reason why. Like you were saying, I'm sick. I'm getting tired, of people not listening and not getting vaccinated. I'm losing my patience and just all of this language. that was just negative and just demeaning to unvaccinated people. And now all of a sudden you're like, we're gonna deal with this. We're through it, and we need to come together. It's like you're the reason. You're part of the reason that we're not coming together.
Yeah, well, and here's the other thing too. It's like this. It's like you must like you gotta wear the mask. You gotta do all this stuff and whatever. And like you said, the only reason why we're not together is because you told me I'm going to lose my job. You told me I'm going to die, and if I don't listen to you, I'm going to lose my job. And now you want to take the mask off, so we're supposed to be butt buddies all of a sudden. You know what I mean? Like,
right?
You didn't give me. You told people to denounce me in the street.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you literally were saying it's time you start. Don't be nice anymore to these people.
Yeah.
And now that you don't want to take, you don't have to wear the mask, and it's so confusing because it's not even like, and now that they don't want to wear the mask. No, this is. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that they always knew this, and now they've just made the decision that it doesn't work. That whole State of the Union, if you really think about it, now that we're saying it, is so disgusting because what it was a group of people who started to look at polling, look at things, and say, okay, this isn't working anymore. So rather than come out, if you want to come out and you want to work together, how about coming out? The State of the Union should have been like, we made some mistakes at the border. And yes, you guys see it one way, we see it other, and we bumped heads. But you know what? It is time for us to come together and find a solution that comes together for both of us where we can have secure borders, but maybe better immigration policies. Like, in other words, they didn't come out and do anything. They came out and just acted like, here's where we've been all the time. Why aren't we working together? You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy, bro. It's completely crazy.
Well, yeah, like it's kind of like the defund the police thing. If they would have come out and be like, unfortunately, with everything that was going on, and we see in California, we're seeing a lot of crime spiking all across the country. Now it's time for us to kind of reevaluate our stance and maybe look at how we can better. I will say the one thing that he did say, which I do agree with, when he was like, we do need to hold police officers accountable, which I have no problem with that at all. And I'm like, all right, like I agree with that. But what I think is just funny is like it was just gaslighting all night. It was like this was your message. This is what got part of the reason why you got elected. And now you're acting like you never even said this shit.
Yeah.
Like, it's like,
well,
what the fuck are you talking about, bro?
Well, what do you do? Like, think about it. Like, when you're trying to make people come together, but pretty much you're to blame for some of it, but you're still in the position of power to kind of, you're the one that has the platform to kind of reach out. And it's like, if you feel that you were right in some way, but you also you have to acknowledge what you've done. Like, in other words, if you punch somebody in the face, but now you need to be friends, you say, look, sorry, I was agitated and you were saying some stuff to me, even if some of it was true, you got in my face and whatever, and I had to do what I had to do. But actually, I see your point too. Sorry, I punched you in the face, but we need to, you know what I mean? Like, you don't punch somebody in the face, come outside and go like, I don't really want to punch you in the face anymore. So come on back in. You know what I mean?
Or like, look, man, we got to get over this, but you did deserve it.
Yeah. Like, what?
You know what I'm saying? Like, you'd be like, wait, come on, man. You can do better than that. A little apology is necessary. But, and that's the thing too. Like, we don't see apologies from politicians. You know what I'm saying? It is extremely rare that any of their policies, when they fail, or any of the language that they use, they don't come out and be like, hey man, I made a mistake. Whereas, like, and this could kind of, we could transition to the next topic that I know Jay wanted to talk about, Joe Rogan. Now, Joe Rogan made some mistakes, COVID, the N-word. Even prior to that, I forget, there was a couple other issues too, with topics or guests that he had on his show, and he was like, hey man, listen, I made a mistake.
The main one was the fire one.
There was something where he like came out the next day.
Fires. He said somebody was they were starting
Yeah.
fires, and he came out and said, "I'm sorry, it wasn't even." It was like one guy somewhere.
So regardless of how you stand on certain things, anybody that's willing to come out and say, "Hey, man, listen, I made a mistake," I may not even believe you, but I think it takes a lot for a man, for anybody to come out and say, "Hey, listen, I'm sorry." Now, the irony of that, well, there's double standard to that too, because he is Hollywood. He does have some money involved. So I think that you see like John Cena, for instance, when John Cena got into some issues with China, and I think it was over Taiwan, I believe it was.
Yeah, but
and then he, like, his apology was, a lot of times you see these celebrities that come out, I don't know that they're genuine. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like they're driven by money. They're driven by their career. So they have to come out and apologize.
Well, you know what that apology was, right?
Yeah.
He acknowledged Taiwan as a country.
Right.
So there's no way in hell that he was like, and for the country of Taiwan, I want to thank you guys. And then China was like, no, we're going to we're going to take your movie down. I mean, that's not an apology. That's kowtowing, which is a Chinese word.
So with that being said, Jay, I know, so the last podcast we talked about a little bit, and Danny and I talked about it, and like, how do you go about that? Like, when is it acceptable to use and all that stuff? And we even said, or I was like, it's weird for us, like as white guys, to come out and be like, well, we're going to bring a black guy on that's going to agree with us or whatever, because it's like that doesn't even feel genuine.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I remember, I don't know if you remember, but I mentioned to you, Jay, a podcast with Sam Harris when he talked about racism. And he kind of started out his podcast with that, saying like, I feel like I could have a black guy on the podcast. And he's like, that agree with me, in particular, Coleman Hughes. And he was like, but it doesn't feel like, I feel like I don't want to go that route. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel real if I do that. And, you know, when it came to the Joe Rogan thing, we addressed it last week. And that was actually after you had reached out and been like, yo, this is something like I'd really like to talk about. So just from your standpoint, like, when did you like, how did you find out about it?
I mean, I guess anybody, social media, I was scrolling, but I know I watch. I don't watch his podcast a lot, but I watch enough episodes to know. Yeah. Let me get some context first, because I know I've seen him on the podcast. Oh, I can't remember his name. It's off the top of my head. He's conservative.
Ben Shapiro.
Correct. I've seen him debate with him before, and he's actually seemed like. That's the crazy part about it, that the liberals were trying to tear him down, because, not to say that he was offensive, but he was kind of playing the devil's advocate to Shapiro, and they were going back and forth and having a very mature conversation. And you would think that would be not the guy that you would try to tear down when you listen to how he feels and how he looks at his views on race and racism and problems going on in the country. But yeah, I had to watch the whole clip on YouTube for me to get the gist of what he said.
Well, well, did you see? I'll be honest with you, man. I thought this is what and again, because since we're talking about the word, I don't think I didn't even look into it. What I read, that most of it was him saying other people's comedy routines.
Correct.
However, the one that I thought was really bad, and but that's what I don't understand about the way people do this to people, is that the fact that people don't even talk about that, the Planet of the Apes reference. You know what I'm talking about, or no?
Yeah, we can talk about yeah.
No, but like, that is racist. However,
it was racist, yeah. Mm-hmm.
However, I actually listened, because I heard that, and I don't know if you remember, Tom, but there was a time where, like, because I'm relatively new into Rogan. I had a lot of friends constantly telling me for years to get into Rogan, and then I got into Rogan during the COVID, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But somewhere going down a rabbit hole, like we always do, when you get into something for a minute, and then you go down that rabbit hole. How did he become this? And I'm watching all this Fear Factor crap, and whatever, and I seen that and the reason why it came to my attention is because he's talking about Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Oh,
In Philly.
He
Yeah.
was in Philly. Yeah.
And I actually remember, like, when you're listening to a podcast, you're not fully immersed in it sometimes, just whatever. And I heard that part and I was like, oh my God, but I actually realize now I'm listening to it again. If you want it, I'm not trying to justify it, but I really genuinely think that he was making more of a reference to Africa than, like, which had, it sounds dumb to say, but I just listened to it again. I have it here if you guys want to hear it again, but but at he immediately says that was racist.
Racism,
yeah. And I don't know, like, it was a little softer when I heard it the second time. However, like, it just, looking back at how people played that, it's like, actually, they didn't even focus on the real part of it that was bad. They just focused on the N-word. And I would see it on all these clips of, like, other late night talk shows and CNN talking about it. And it almost, like, kind of made me feel like, that's how bad we are, is that we're focused on the wrong stuff. There's an actual really bad thing here, but the other thing sounds worse in your little soundbite because you don't want to play the minute-long racist thing that he said. You know what I mean?
Do you guys know who NDRE is?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was surprised to find out. I didn't know who originally dropped the bomb, but apparently that's who dropped the bomb by posting the clip.
Well, the weird part, look, I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but then that's where it gets weird because the people that made the clip and then somehow, like, got together with NDRE so that she would be the one to drop the clip.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I mean? It's that Media Matters or whatever group, the Patriot Tapes or whatever.
But who actually made the clip was Alex Jones.
Oh.
There was a time when Alex Jones and Joe Rogan were beefing, and he made this clip kind of going at Joe Rogan. Now, I don't really know exactly what happened with it because it never really made its rounds when Alex Jones did it. What Bender's saying, this social media group, whatever, I don't know exactly why or how, other than I know that Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports, he debated them because he was like, whoa, this seems a little bit.
Are you sure about the Alex Jones thing?
I'm positive. Yeah, because they actually talked, those guys that released it said, they were like, this is from Alex Jones. This is from his show. Now I'm not saying, now I don't know that the whole clip that was edited, but Alex Jones could have done a couple, like, snippets and then went on about it. And then those guys maybe went back and added to it. But they said that initially that's where they got it from.
Well, just to either way, but
because there was a time, I don't, you remember when Alex Jones and him were like, well, it was more Alex Jones just going to Joe Rogan, but he was going at him hard.
I didn't even know. I never even knew that they weren't buddies.
There was a time, because then when Rogan had him back on, he was like, whoa, like, we need to talk about this. Like, he's like, I know you were going through a hard time. And that's when Rogan was like, I know he was like drinking a lot and going a little bit off the deep end.
Mm-hmm.
Alex Jones went off the deep end. There's a deep end.
Yeah. So that's all that happened. And NDRE, it was kind of weird because, like, I haven't heard about her since, like, the 90s. Like, because that's when I think she had a song.
Her song was
The Beautiful.
Yeah.
The guitar. Yeah.
Is she possibly from Philly as well?
I think she is from Philly though. She gave me Philly vibes.
Yeah. They're from that, I don't know, Tom, if you remember when I used to go to Black Lily Night all the time in Philly at the 5 spot. And I've been reading up about this, but Music Soul Child, Jill Scott, It's
Yes.
called Neo Soul or
Yeah,
something.
Neo Soul.
And they all that Philly was where that came from, where that culminated, and it culminated from that small little bar called the Five Spot.
She's from Denver, Colorado.
Yeah, but
Surprising.
the reason why I was bringing it up, the reason why I said the thing about Philly is I can guarantee you, if you look through her Wikipedia, it's going to bring up that she somehow was in this Philly scene when she was getting started out.
So, so again, I don't even remember like her whole. I know the name, but I just didn't really remember her whole, music catalog or anything. And so with that happening, and then it kind of blew up. It was, and that was what Portnoy was saying. He was like, the timing of this is very sketchy. He was like, because it's right after the COVID thing. And he goes, and that's kind of because Portnoy was like, I got no skin in the game. I don't know Joe Rogan. I don't know anything. But Portnoy has been under some investigations for like sexual misconduct and some all kinds of shit. And now he had all the receipts. He was like, wait a minute. He did some investigating into these people. He released text messages. He released all this information. He was like, no. This journal is going to put a hit piece out on me, but I got all the info. I got the text messages, the emails, everything to back up my story. So he connected the dots back to these people that released the Joe Rogan thing. And that's why they had a debate, because he's like, look, I think everything that he said is fucked up. Like, I don't think there's no need for it. However, I do think it's just the timing of it is very suspicious coming after the COVID thing.
Well, those people, and this is not something that I'm just making up, or it's not like a conspiracy. They're linked to the Clintons. They're a Democratic hit. They're like a media. They're a hit, whatever you want to call it. This is not the first time they've done it, and their money gets circumvented through some. So it's basically like Media Matters, which is like Clinton's and George Soros money goes into this Media Matters fund, which is to regulate the media, like kind of thing, like like a charity that will hold people accountable. But the only people that they're holding accountable is dissenting views on the right.
Well, yeah. So they're a left-wing based media company, and he was like, and Portnoy was like, well, but why don't you call out people that have done this, that are leftists, that are Democrats? And they were like, well, we kind of do, anybody that says it's not okay. And he's like, yes, but you don't pinpoint it. Like, you pinpoint it because with me, because Dave Pointer was like, I'm not even really that political. People just assume that I'm a Trump guy. And he goes, but I don't really talk about that shit.
Well,
and he's like, but people assume that I'm a Republican, and people go after Rogan because of this, and you guys are smearing him. But he's like, there's other celebrities that have done blackface, that have dropped the N-word, and you don't go after them.
Well, you're also, and Jay, I want your opinion on this as well, like, because you're making me think of something right now. But it's like, how about this from what you just said? When you just said that Portnoy's like, I'm not even that political. You know what I mean? And then you said they think he's a Republican, so they go after him. And then Rogan, I don't know if I could say he's not that political now, but he's not specifically political. He's just everything's politics. Like, just talking about money is politics. Talking about something that's going on in the world is politics. But doesn't mean you're right wing, left wing, or whatever when you talk about him. But here's what I'm thinking in my head of where we're at. They're not smearing Portnoy because he's right wing. Portnoy says something that they don't like, and then they smear him as right wing. Like, right wing is the smear. You know what I mean? Like, you don't smear someone as a Democrat, but we live in a world where it's like, you like some moderate or some libertarian can be smeared by calling them a Republican. You know what I mean? In other words, like Joe Rogan, part of the smear campaign on Joe Rogan is just merely the fact that they want you to think that he's a Republican, because that does damage to somebody in Hollywood. You know what I mean? You get what I'm saying? Like, You don't have to smear him as a racist. You could
Well,
smear him as
but
a
it's
conservative.
but see, that's what I'm saying. It's adjacent to that. So
They go hand in hand.
by saying he's a Republican, you're almost just saying, well, you know what Republicans are.
No, that's what I'm saying.
They're racist. You know what I'm saying?
Saying someone is Republican is a smear, is the smear.
Right.
Like, it's like,
right.
you know what I mean? Like, clearly, if you go down through Rogan's catalog, he is not a Republican.
Correct.
But yet calling him a Republican has turned a lot of it. I guess what I'm saying is, if you told me, if I really liked listening to somebody and you told me that they're a Democrat, I wouldn't care. If I was listening to somebody's music and you told me, you know, he's a progressive and voted for AOC, I don't care. Like his music. But Kanye West, you know, he voted for Trump. Like they tried to, like, just by saying he was on the right, it's enough to possibly smear Democrats one way or the next, which I think just shows you where the two things are, you know? Which, in other words, like, if you say someone's a Republican, it's enough to smear them enough that there's a good portion of Democrats out there that won't listen to just their music. You know what I mean? Or won't listen to their podcast that they were enjoying the day before. It's kind of weird.
I think what's weird about Kanye is now Kanye's kind of shifted back into like good graces with most people. But like when he was wearing the Trump hat, everybody was like, dude, he's like, he needs to see a psychiatrist. He's going crazy. And now he's kind of back in good graces with like the general public, it seems like.
Did y'all get a chance to catch the documentary?
I didn't. On Netflix. I do want to watch it.
Yeah, because I didn't realize it was good. Like, I thought it was just some kind of thing that was on. But is it like a really good documentary, Jay?
It's a really good documentary. So let me break it. It's a really good documentary, and it's really based on basically the last 20 years of his life.
Yeah.
From when he was just a producer, from when he met Jay-Z and Dame Dash to when he actually got signed, and because his cameraman was filming him the whole time. So when his mom died, he's filming all of this. But I bring it up because it also current, like the documentary, the parts that I guess they finished filming maybe late. It looks like late 2021 because it's pretty up to date. And if you're watching it, it shows a clip in there where, because people call him crazy. People always call Kanye crazy, right?
Oh yeah.
But it's a clip. He's actually watching a clip where he talks about the abortion. Remember when he talked about abortion? I guess he was somewhere and he was talking about abortion. And he broke down crying about how his father tried to abort him.
Right.
And people and CNN was saying that Kanye, something's wrong with him. He's having a breakdown. We need the old Kanye back. But it shows in a documentary, it shows him watching a clip of Fox News, and he's watching I'm so bad with names. The anchor.
Tucker
Carlson.
Yeah.
And it goes on. First, Tucker Carlson shows a clip of him breaking down and crying, but he actually then Tucker Carlson shows, well, they want you to think he's crazy, and they want you to think that he's all of that. And Kanye is the whole time he's like, yeah, so he gets it. This guy gets it. He understands what I'm trying to say, even though I didn't deliver it in the best way. He understands what I'm trying to say. I'm not crazy. I said the truth, and that's what Tucker Carlson would say. Look, the delivery was a little botched, but Kanye was telling the truth.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Well, that's the thing. Like, how do you really convey that message like in an articulate way? Like, I had an experience with it, and I talked about it on the podcast. And it's not an easy thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, and especially a guy like Kanye, like he is very eccentric. Like, you know what I'm saying? So like he's 0 to 100 like real quick. And I don't blame him, but it's so easy, like especially in that line of work, in Hollywood, music business, and all that stuff. When you're in the limelight like that, you have to be so straight edge, so calculated, and like, you know, no kinks in your armor. You know what I'm saying? And then the moment you show that vulnerability, especially if it goes with abortion, if it goes against the left-wing narrative, that's generally, then they're really going to go at you. You know
Well,
what I
this
mean? It
that
kind of
what I
switched it up.
what I was gonna say was this is now I understand it kind of goes both ways, but you also have to remember who owns the media. It's not that doesn't go both ways.
Correct.
But basically it's like Kanye voted for Trump. So then it was he's crazy. Let's
Well,
I mean,
not to interrupt you, but because I didn't know that either. It turns out he didn't actually vote in that election,
well, he
but
supported
he
him in some
advocated. He
way.
advocated for him. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
In some way, and I agree.
Right.
Like the whole thing is,
I was gonna say he might have voted for himself.
yeah. Well, no, but I guess in 2016, right? He didn't run in
Yeah.
Right,
2016.
right.
But what I mean is, once he showed any kind of like, so to be honest with you, just like you're saying, like this was the thing that I'm saying about where people get. I know what you're saying, where you're like, I don't think he really voted for him. I remember when he like told the story about like wearing the hat, right? Like I could understand it as a guy who voted for Trump, right? In a sense,
Mhm.
it's like I wouldn't wear that fucking hat because I'd get my ass whooped. You know what I mean? And what he was kind of saying was like, I put this hat on, like, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like, do you remember when he on that big rant about the hat?
Mhm.
And he was like, I feel like Superman with his hat on and shit. And remember, and going to the same thing where you're like, when he was doing the abortion thing, he just explains things in a certain way. Like, no, I mean, like, I don't know. Like, I think basically he kind of got behind Trump. Like, maybe he was just getting behind his president. He wasn't even taking a side. There was just something in Trump where he was like, okay, I like this guy for some reason. You know what I mean?
That's what I like about the documentary. It shows that because, like I said, it follows his life the last 20 years, and it kind of you're 100% correct. He wasn't framed as being crazy until he started speaking more conservatively, advocating more for Donald Trump. He was never framed. He may have been framed as cocky, arrogant, an asshole. I think that's what
Right.
Obama called him.
But he was an artist.
Right.
Artist, correct. But then once he started speaking
Yeah.
politically, that's when everybody started labeling him as crazy.
Well, so and the thing is we've all been there, right? When everybody around you just wants what comes out of your so like I'll just take me for instance is like, look, I mean, I don't sit there and explain everything like a lawyer. I'm fumbling around with my words. I have a really hard time trying to get out the way I'm feeling inside. You know what I mean? And if you're in an environment where people are giving you the opportunity and being understanding, it seems like you'll get to a place. But if you're in an environment where they just want to like if I get in a conversation with somebody who their only point is to prove to me that I'm racist, they're going to get me. You know what I mean? They're like as we try to have some type of conversation and someone's just standing there trying to bullet point you. You know what I mean? Like it just attack what you're doing. They're gonna that you know what I mean? Like a guy like Kanye, what I'm saying is if he's sitting there and he's trying to express himself before the Trump stuff, it was like, yeah, man, let it out. You know what I mean? Like he's an artist, let him whatever. Now he's trying to express himself and it's just he's getting met with he's getting met with aggression. You know what I mean?
Correct.
And so, but anyway, even what I was even gonna say with like with Kanye and there was something I was gonna say with Kanye and something, but go ahead, you take it back.
Well, the thing about Kanye to me, and like this can kind of springboard back to Rogan and racism and all that. When it comes to politics and how they kind of like they can say, oh, the Republican is racist, and like it's always like with Kanye, I think when he was wearing that hat, I don't even know that it was more. I don't know that he was 100% on board with Trump and his policy because I think he did say that it was more of
Yeah.
me being a black man and you telling me that I can't vote for him.
That's
Like
correct.
because black people are supposed to vote this way. And he was like, that's what really gets me. And it takes me back Kobe Bryant. There was a situation. There's so many Kobe Bryant was asked years ago. I remember. I don't remember the specific because this is going back a while ago, but I don't remember the specific details. But Kobe Bryant, they asked him about a case, like there was like this racially motivated case or whatever, and he was like, I don't know, I don't have an opinion on it. Like, why should I have an opinion on it because I'm black? Like, why are you asking me that question? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, what are you trying to get out of it? And then it was kind of like Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne got into some shit about Black Lives Matter because he was like, all lives matter. And he was like, when I got shot, I shot myself. When I was shot and the cops busted in my door, all of these black cops were jumping over me. And this
For
white
drugs.
cop, yeah, and this white cop, Uncle Bob, that's my uncle to this day. He's like, he picked me up and he yelled at all those mother. He was like, this kid's 14 or however old he was. He's like, call the fucking ambulance.
Mhm.
And he's like, I got white fans at my shows. Like, we don't see that. But he took a lot of flack over it because this was at the height of Black Lives Matter, and he took a lot of backlash. And then he kind of switched his stance a little bit. And it's crazy to me when like the media and you have this like backlash with and that's what I'm saying, when you're in that line of work, when you're in that limelight, how like it's very difficult for you to speak and be exactly who you want to be, because you have to be what the public, you're a product essentially. So you have to be able to, we have to be able to market you.
But this is what I was getting at with the Kanye thing too, is, but yet that it seems to me like you only become something in the spotlight negative when they want to. But like, let's go back and look at, like, follow Post Malone around or these other rappers around. The crazy shit comes out of their mouth. You know what I mean? It does it, like, when I say crazy shit, I don't mean in their songs. I mean, I remember watching like some little documentary with Post Malone, and all he's talking about is blowing coke and getting his dick sucked. And what I'm trying to say is, if he turned around and wore or did something against the mainstream media, because at the time when he was doing that, it was like, no, they want to sell him, they want whatever. Then when he becomes a problem, you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of what I'm saying is weird, is when we're talking about all that shit Kanye was doing, he was never mad. He wasn't watching what he was saying, and it was Kanye West is the shit. And then the minute that he went against the grain, now they just took all the same shit he was doing and made it bad. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so, and that's all. That's what I'm saying with it. Where it's like, I don't believe that these people are watching what they do, and then they slip up, and then it's, oh, they're in big trouble. It's like they're living in this world where that's everything's okay, and then all of a sudden it's not. You know. And when it's not, somebody makes the decision that it is that, all right, now we have to destroy this person.
Yeah, dude. And I feel like Danny and I are kind of dominating this conversation. So I wanted to kind of get back, because you didn't really elaborate, kind of like, Jay, when you heard that Joe Rogan thing, like, what was your feeling? What was your take on it? Like, how did you, because I think you sent me the article from the Shade Room or something, right?
Mhm.
Or yeah. So like initially, like, what was your take on it? How did it make you feel? Like, what were you thinking?
Like I said, me personally, it doesn't. Like I said, I needed context first. I no longer. I used to. I see a clip on Instagram, and I would just get angry, like, oh, how could he say that? How could he do that?
Yeah.
You're canceled. But now I always want context before I give any type of reaction. I want context. So I went back and watched the clip, and the N word, because like I said, a lot of the times he was saying the N word, he was using it. Should he have said it? Maybe no. Did he have to say it? Maybe no. But a lot of times he was using it in somebody else's words. Well, this guy said the N word, and he said the N word, and he was never using it. And I at least I didn't find the video where he said it out of his own self, where he was saying the N word out of his own tone. The Planet of the Apes one was a little that because and I think that was twice that it happened. I think he said it twice in two different. It might have happened in two different podcasts. That one was a little weird. Right. Like I said, it didn't get me angry, but at the same time, I was like that. I don't know why he went to that.
Well, and I'm not taking over. I just want to say to the end of that, where I agree with you is on that was I literally thought that's bad. It was bad. I was telling Tommy, I'm like, this is bad. Like that was wrong. And I literally still kind of felt like it was bad, but yet I just don't think that he's like my argument before I listened to it again before this podcast would have been it's bad. However, I
Yeah.
don't really believe he's a bad guy or is racist. However, listening to it again, I really believe that he wasn't making the correlation in the way I thought he was making the correlation. Because he
Right.
literally says, like, his apology at the end of it is he goes, that's racist. Like, Planet of the Apes wasn't even in Africa or something. The way he said it was like, oh, his correlation was that he was in Africa. Or, you know what I mean? It's really, can I play it? Can I play that little? It's just like 45 seconds.
Whoa.
That's not it.
Oh.
Hold on, I gotta go to a different soundboard. But
Okay.
I was gonna say, what is it?
So anyway, we can't go to there. So I go, you got to go to one where there's Planet of the Apes, man. We're going to go see Planet of the Apes. So I look on the iPhone app and it says, okay, take me to this one. And the guy goes, okay. I go, is that in a good neighborhood? He's like, oh, yeah. Guy barely speaks English. He takes us there. We get out and we're giggling. Oh, we're going to go see Planet of the Apes. We walk into Planet of the Apes. We walked into Africa, dude. We walked in the door and there was no white people. There was no white people. Planet of the Apes didn't take place in Africa. That was a racist thing for me to say. You see what I'm saying? What I'm saying is,
like,
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, like I thought it was bad, but I still agree that it wasn't. I mean, that's something where it's like you slipped off there. But I will say the weirdest part that I heard then before we did it was where he goes, "That's racist." I'm sorry, Planet of the Apes didn't even take place in Africa. Like, that's not. I didn't think it was. You know what I mean? Like the fact that that's how he corrected it.
Wait, see the fact that he like corrected it at that moment, like he was like, hold on. To me personally, like I'm like, dude, like listen to that. You're like, dude, like what are you thinking? Right? Like how are you going to even try to like compare the two? But at the same time, you got to also realize like, dude, he is a comedian. So like even though like to him, maybe I'm speaking out of place here because I'm not a comedian. So like I had really no idea. But I would imagine that as a comedian, you're always trying to find a joke somewhere in that. And you're just kind of saying things. Comedians are always say the most offensive shit to try to get you to laugh about it. You know what I'm saying? That's the only kind of justification that I can maybe make for him in that situation. Now, again, you listen to it and you're like, dude, like, it's kind of a bad joke. But this is where, so like, I don't know if you know who Coleman Hughes is, Jay. But he's like a black guy. He's an intellectual. He's been on a lot of different podcasts. He has his own podcast. He was just on Rogan recently.
Okay.
And I've listened to him a couple times. And you know his takes on race, and one of the things that he was saying, he was like, the thing about race is like we kind of all lump it all in together, and he's like, but there are different contexts and of a person and how much of a racist they are. Like
Correct.
with Joe Rogan saying that, and then you have the Grand Wizard of the KKK. You know what I'm saying? They're not the same two people.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like you can have somebody that maybe has some biases, maybe has some stereotypes, maybe like says, like drops the N word, like somebody cuts a black eye, whatever, cuts you off in traffic. You say something to get that person angry, whatever. There's no justification for it, but it's like are there degrees like how you judge a person. You know what I'm saying? Or do you just lump that on them and then that's it? Because when you do that, it's kind of like, okay, well, then there's no difference between being the Grand Wizard of the KKK and somebody that drops the N-word that somebody just cut them off in traffic.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
I agree with you. I'm 1,000% with you on that one.
Well, here's like something as well. It's like it's not that there's degrees of it, or I mean there could be. Yeah, I get what you're saying, but my thing is, first off, we're like my best analogy that I could use to it is like if I got in a fight with a fat dude, I'm gonna call him a fat motherfucker.
Right.
Right.
Like you do things.
Now,
Yeah.
doesn't no, but here's the thing. Doesn't mean that I shouldn't have said it. Doesn't mean I don't owe somebody an apology. Doesn't mean that that person's not going to look at me different because they've seen a side of me where I went into an ugly place when I was talking to them. However, there's a difference between that guy and a guy who's then also sorry and a guy who's like, I'm not going any. I hate fat people. They make me sick. I don't want to see them.
Right.
They gross me out when I go to a restaurant. Can you do me a favor and get that fat guy out of that table over there because he's in my view? That's a different thing, you know? And so what I think is interesting that I feel like this whole attack on people, the way that this thing goes out there is most times you're attacking people who were willing. Like if you attack a guy who was a comedian who made a joke in his stand-up comedy show 4 years ago, or a guy who did blackface on Comedy Central years ago, and then all of a sudden you want to attack him and he's out there apologizing, well, doesn't make any. I'm not saying blackface is okay or it was okay that he did it a couple years ago, but the bottom line is you're not attacking a real racist. Like the people that they attack. If you're put it this way, if you're going to attack somebody for being racist and tell them to apologize, and the next day they're apologizing, and then you're still beating on them, like as if you've somehow battling racism, I would imagine a real racist is not coming out and apologizing about it the next day.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like a real racist is not even like. Sadly, I don't think you'll ever hear a real racist unless you find that secret. Like if you found him on like talking on the phone with his buddy in private, or you found out he went to a meeting or some shit, that's a different story. But the guys that are going to those meetings and people out there that really meet together and are part of some type of racist group, I mean, I would say that like the shit they're saying, they're never going to apologize for it. You know what I mean? Like the real racists out there aren't people that you're pointing out for making a mistake in a stand-up comedy act a few years ago. You know what I mean?
Did you guys hear about the I'm probably gonna boss this story off the top of my head. It was a couple of days ago, the minor league player who went on Twitter and he went on a homophobic, a racist, and anti-Semitic rant.
Oh, he went the full gamut.
And at the end of the tweet, I'm gonna actually pull the tweet up too. I believe he ended the tweet with actually saying, "Hey, I am a racist." And of course, he was let go from the team. Of course, his career is probably over with. Also, but he did apologize he apologized for everything except being anti-Semitic, because I think he was referring to, I guess, his manager or something like that. Somebody that's over the team. He was complaining about him, and he was just saying, "I just don't like that guy." It wasn't anti-Semitic. I just don't like that guy. But he did apologize.
He said I was racist.
He did. I'm gonna pull up the actual tweet. Y'all probably could talk, converse, and I'll probably pull it up.
But see, like that's a situation where you're like, all right, like the case closed.
Well, I have a weird question.
There's not really much of a debate after that.
But now I have a weird question for you, Jay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like something I ponder. It's just like we're all here together, so I'm thinking of it now. And I don't have an answer. We're all whatever. But so say a guy is like, I'm racist. Forget what color. Like maybe he's black, maybe he's white. But say somebody's like flat out like, because I mean, put it this way: you apparently are allowed to be in, like, the KKK exists, I guess, right? Cool. Or other groups exist that have racist in them. That there's groups that exist where the only way you can be part of the group is if you are a racist, you know?
Right.
But say that guy wants to play, say he's a great basketball player or a great baseball player, and he's openly racist. I understand, like in other words, I don't think I don't think the guy should have a job or whatever on one angle, but then again, like I don't know, it's so weird. Like it's a weird thing to think about where it's like, do you think you should have the right to be racist if even if that means like I don't have to like you. I don't think most of the world would even like the guy, but does he have a right to be racist within himself? Is that a dumb question? What I'm saying? Am I making any sense in what I'm asking?
In my opinion, I
Yeah.
I actually I would respect the person. I may not like him, but I
Yeah.
would respect the person who's more openly racist
Right.
than somebody who's tiptoeing around or
Well,
somebody who's or somebody who's trying to pander to the point where they're trying their best not to come off as racist.
Well, but here's the thing you got to think about too. Like, say somebody is that's even what I mean about when they attack people, or it's kind of to me like they're teaching them guidelines. So it's like I would rather. I think the bigger enemy is the guy who's climbing that power ladder, that whatever, and nobody knows he's racist. And the way
Correct.
that nobody knows is that he's been navigating around shit that he says and does because he's learned the game. You know what I mean? And that's why what I'm saying is that's the guy you need to look for, not the guy who's like climbing the power structure and then they catch a video of him, rapping to his favorite Biggie Smalls song and whoopsie doopsie, he said the wrong word. I'm not saying that he should or shouldn't or can or can't say it. What I'm saying is, trust me, that's not your enemy. That's not the guy that you got to be worried about.
Yeah, the whole dynamics on race in this country is like it's so weird to me because like even like I think it's natural like for people to come out like most people wouldn't want to connect with the guy who's openly racist. Like most would, there would be like a fist fight, there would be a physical altercation. It would be, you know what I'm saying? But like you look at guys like Daryl Davis and who like goes up to that person in compassion and is like, listen, you don't like me for the way I look. Let's talk. Let's work this out and see. I'm going to show you that I'm a much better person than you think that I am. And that approach to me will always have more success than the anger towards one another because then it just amplifies. I mean, that goes back to every single thing. Like even when we were talking about with conflicts in the Middle East and our foreign policy approach to things, like the more that we just drop bombs on countries, obviously there's going to be more hate that comes our way because of the violence that we're putting out. You know what I'm saying? So like, I just kind of think like it's weird for me to speak on because look, I've had black people do shitty things to me, call me a fucking honky, throw bottles at me and tell me to get the fuck out of my neighborhood, white boy. You know what I mean? While I'm waiting for the fucking trolley. Like I look at those dudes and I'm like,
me too, be honest.
I'm like, fuck you. Like you're a fucking jerk off. You know what I'm saying? But like, I'm not going to look at like people that I have black people that I have close relationships in a different way because it's not the same. You know what I mean?
Right.
Well,
And
in those situations too, where something like that's happened to me. I mean, we're bringing them up now because it's part of the conversation, but I can tell you, I've been in that situation a good few times, and I just looked at it like, oh, here comes these fucking kids, like a group of kids, like the same way that happened to me. I've had it happen to me where I'm just in a different neighborhood and it's a bunch of white kids that don't know me, call me a kid from a different neighborhood or some shit. I don't remember a time. Like, I mean, it is different. You acknowledge the race because what happens is if I was in an all white neighborhood that I didn't belong in, it might just take somebody a little bit longer to understand that I'm an outsider. But when I'm standing on a corner in the black neighborhood waiting for the bus, I mean, it's pretty clear it's not my neighborhood. You know what I mean? So if you're looking for, if you're a young teenager and young teenage kids are always looking to for some type of mischievous activity, like when I got in situations like Tommy just mentioned, I don't think I ever walked away from them like, feeling a different way about a race thing. I just felt like shit. I've got to be careful when I'm going in neighborhoods I don't belong in at time, because I've also in those same neighborhoods gone in there because I wanted to because of my black friends. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's just like that's what's going to happen. Like I've hung out with my black friends in a black neighborhood, and then at some point, one of the other kids want to just want to decide to be an asshole, and then you got people defending you and whatever. But then at the same time, somebody might say, "Yo, we gotta get the fuck out of here, dude," because it's whatever. But I never like it was just what it was. Like people are just fucking like that, you know?
I have a 2-part question for both. I'm gonna read the tweet first, but then I had kind of, because it's kind of just circle around what you guys are discussing right now. But I'm gonna read the tweet first. You can let me. I don't, because not reading it now. I kind of, well, you guys let me know how you feel about the tweet, and then I ask my question at y'all. But the tweet said, and I quote, "I am racist. I do sometimes make assumptions based on a person's race, ethnicity, culture. Glad that I got that out the way."
Wait, and that was it? Like there was no, that was
No,
just it?
well, now I kind of understand what Poe means more.
So
Is that a bad? I think, in other words, I think that a lot of people are like that.
But it's weird though, because he said, I am a racist, but I do sometimes judge people. So he's saying,
we're saying judge him.
he's saying sometimes.
So
So like,
I don't think he was. It don't sound like he was saying it in maybe a serious manner.
that's what I'm saying, because look, Mark Cuban gotten a lot of heat before, because Mark Cuban was like, look, if I see a group of black guys walking down the street with their hoodies up and they're kind of like, they look like they're gang members, whatever, I'm going to walk across the street. If I see a group of white guys with long hair, biker looking dudes, I'm going to cross the
walking
street.
straight at them.
No, and he was like, I'm going to cross the street. So like,
well, no, I actually want to ask you a question.
So no matter what people say, the way you present yourself, no matter who you are, because I work with guys that look like bikers that get pulled over when they would be riding their bikes around certain parts. They get pulled over all the time, and they're like, "Dude, you're only pulling us the fuck over because they think they're in a bike gang." You know what I'm saying? So like the way you present yourself, we can say America's racist and all this stuff, but like the way you present yourself to the world, people are going to judge you at certain times. I mean, it is, and that is a psychological thing that Jordan Peterson, hold on, that Jordan Peterson just talked about, that it was a great breakdown. And he was like, listen, people of all people, like whether it's women, whether it's gays, straight people, Christians, Muslims, black, white, everybody has in-group preferences that can sometimes be confused as racism. And he's like, but it's natural and it's common to everybody. This is an ancestral thing. He's like, because you did that for survival reasons. Like when you were in cavemen or in tribes, there were people that were staring at flowers, and there were people that were staring at oncoming other tribes that they didn't know who they were. And if you were staring at the flowers, you probably got killed. But if you were looking out for the danger, so he was like, it's a human natural thing for that to happen for people. And he was like, and that sometimes can get a little bit confused with people's natural instincts and racism. And again, that goes for everyone, your race, your sexuality, your gender, So it's just it's very complicated. Like it's not this. What I hate the most out of all of it is when politicians get up and we're like, and they're like, we got to fight racism. We got to do it. Like, dude, you're not gonna do it. Like, you're not gonna put a policy in place that's gonna change somebody else's opinion. It's just not gonna happen.
It's not possible.
Like, you're actually just making things worse.
Correct.
I mean, and that's just kind of like the way I look at it, because I'm like, I mean, dude, look, you just look around the world at all times. I mean, now what's going on in Ukraine? You know what I mean? Like, it's just so crazy the way humanity is when you look throughout all of history and how fucking brutal everybody is. And it's just a shame, you know, but it's, you know.
You're telling me I didn't. I'm sorry. I didn't see the rest of these tweets. I didn't know he tweeted out this also. One of them, I guess, this is considered one of the racist ones. I've heard a lot of black people call themselves kings of America. Kings of what? LOL. I think it's time black people go back to their roots and start to reestablish themselves as the true black culture, not the fake bullshit in America.
And what color is this guy?
He's white.
Well, as a white guy, I think I don't think this guy means too bad what he's saying. Like, what I mean is he thinks for some reason that what he's saying isn't racist, but he's being racist. That's racist. You know what I mean?
Let me read the trans.
Like, unless he's just completely losing his fucking mind. The first tweet you read to me kind of made a little bit of sense. If a guy like was just trying to say, hey, I see race sometimes and it does, things affect my judgment on things. I must admit I've been victim of that. You know? But now you tell me that. I mean, this guy's going into, if you're white, you got no business to speak on what another culture's calling each other.
That's correct. And what do you think about this tweet? This is the transphobic tweet. Or considered transphobic. Any person who is secretly transgender and their partner does not know the sexual actions that have taken place, it is a rapist and a sexual molester. May God be the judge.
Well, I'll say this. I would hope that if I ever was to be with a woman that was once a man, she'd let me know. However, it's not something I'm going to fucking tweet out and fucking tell somebody that God's going to judge them. I mean, clearly this guy's got some issues.
Yeah.
Well, I don't. How old is this dude?
Ooh, I mean, he's should be. I had to find it.
I mean, I'm not saying that that's an excuse. It just sounds like one. I don't know why. First of all, you're a baseball player, so
25.
I mean, he's like.
Well,
He's a young adult, but like I'm just not sure. Like, what is the point of those tweets? Like, what like I don't get it. Like, I don't get what your approach is. Like,
this is what I'm saying that I'm seeing with him. It's like there's some type, like I don't want to say like privilege or something, but it's like you got a white dude who actually thinks for some reason that he can say what he's saying, and yet at the same time doesn't think that he's being racist or transphobic or whatever. And from what you're showing me, it's like for some reason, this sounds like a guy who's like thinking he's making some bright points, and also at the same time, for some reason, shockingly doesn't think that what he's saying is racist or transphobic. So that's kind of wild to me. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like it's coming from a place of like a sheltered kid who hasn't, you know what I mean?
Either that or I think maybe he's a dude that has like this ideology of like maybe like how certain people should be or like the world should be. And he's just out there saying it because maybe he feels emboldened because he's like, maybe there's something to have. I got to be honest with you. The whole king thing, like growing up, that wasn't a term that I ever heard people use. Now I hear it all the time and I'm like, It doesn't really make sense to me because not everybody was a king.
No,
So
but
like,
the idea behind it is like don't think of yourself low and kind of add empowerment.
no. I completely understand that. But I also understand that, like, if you view yourself as a king, then you view yourself above somebody else.
Yeah,
So
but well, I mean,
that I don't get there's a positive spin on it, like you just said, which I get. It's an empowering thing. But you have to be understand like how people are and egos. So if you walk around calling yourself a king all the time, or just random people like a king that you don't know, could be a shitty ass person, and you're like, stay good, king, whatever the situation may be.
well, if you're in
That's an ego. That could become an ego issue.
well, I mean, Jay could debate me on this or whatever, but what I see when I see that term or whatever, and I think you're right. Maybe there's places where it's used unnecessarily, but what I see is like you're a young black man in an oppressive environment. Let's say you're living in say East Baltimore or North Philly, and you're walking outside the door and you feel there's something going on in your environment where it's like you feel lesser than maybe you are being fucked with by cops, you know, whatever else. Like here, like I'm not saying all the time. I'm talking about you're just in an environment that would make somebody feel less than. And it's like you're walking out the door and your mom's like, remember, you're a king. Remember, you are a king or something. And then I feel like it's a woman to man thing where it's like, you're my king. You're my queen.
Yeah,
You know,
I completely disagree with that.
So
no, no, no.
I can give a little context. What it means in black culture. Like I said, so late '90s, early 2000s, I'm sure you guys know who Nas is.
Oh
Yeah.
Yeah, Nas. So Nas, and I'm not saying that I'm not gonna say he invented it, but he popularized it in hip hop, where he might say "Peace King" or address people as kings.
Right.
And what it is as far as black culture, it's because what it is, a lot of black people don't know their culture, right? So a lot of black people don't know that, hey, you're descendants of kings and of queens. So it's actually like a reminder of trying to uplift you and say, hey, you're a king. Don't almost like say, hey, don't forget that you're a king. So
Oh
peace,
yeah.
king. So it's almost like a term of endearment, it's almost like how we use the N word as a term of endearment towards each other.
Right.
It's another way. It's another way of saying it. Some people actually prefer to use that term, because some black people don't like calling other black people the N word, or
Right.
call it, vice versa. So they rather address each other as kings and queens, because they feel like, hey, I'm not a nigga. We came from kings and queens. We still are kings and queens on the inside. Don't forget that. So it's almost like reminding you of your history of where you came from in black culture.
But here's my thing. Like I could see, just like Tommy said, like I don't agree with it, whatever. I'm just saying what I see it as. I could sit here and we can have a debate about like it's you know, I don't want to look like I fucking understand that racist guy's tweet or whatever. But this is what I mean, where I'm listening to that guy's tweets, and it's like I could see somebody arguing. I could see two black people arguing about like saying kings or whatever, or getting back to something else or yada yada. But for like when you just said some black people don't like using the N word and some do.
Right.
So let's take away the king's part, because you know, whatever. That would be like me for some reason feeling like I could go on Twitter and go like, hey, you black people need to stop calling each other the N word or whatever. Like listen, it doesn't like that's not a tweet.
Yeah.
That's not a tweet that you could send out. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, that part, absolutely. And there was actually, because there was another, I don't remember what the topic was. It actually might have been Joe Rogan, and I was on Instagram, and I got into a little discussion with this black dude, and he was, I had my point, and then he actually stumped me, because I was like, I sat there and I'm like, I don't know really how to respond to that, because he basically was like, well, it's not your place to to have an opinion on. And I sat there and I was like, wow, I don't know. Maybe he's right. Like, I don't know. I don't like, I was like, kind of like taken back. And I'm like, well, how do I respond? Cause I'm like internally, I'm like, I kind of get what he's saying. And he kind of does make sense in some of his points. But then the other part of me is like, yes, but that's kind of how we have to have a conversation, because if you tell me I can't have an opinion on something, then you can't, then if there's another issue that arises, you can't then condemn me like silence is violence.
Well,
You know what I'm saying?
here's
Oh,
Because
yeah, correct. Yeah.
because you can't play at both ends. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're going to tell me I can't have an opinion on this, but then if I don't speak up on like a police brutality issue and silence is violence, well, you can't play both ends of that. You know what I'm saying? So that's why, like, because I totally understood what he was saying. I was like, damn, like maybe I shouldn't. You know what I'm saying? And there was like, it kind of reminded me of a situation, like it was like right after the George Floyd thing.
Mhm.
I had a friend, and I'll tell a story. A girl that I knew reached out to a mutual friend that we had that's black in the theater, and she reached out and she was like, what do I like? What can I do to help? When that first happened, I actually had this instinct in me to reach out to another girl that I know, this black woman that I've grown up, that I've known for years. I absolutely adore her. We work together, and we built this relationship like where none of that ever mattered. So it was weird for me, and that's why I was like, am I getting manipulated by the media? Because like, why would I feel the need to reach out to her to be like, what can I do? Because maybe it doesn't even affect her. Like, she may not be bothered by it. You know what I'm saying? But this other girl that reached out to this black girl that we knew from the theater, she was like, well, I don't feel like as a black woman that I need to be telling a white woman what to do. But if you want, here's a couple books that you should read. And I was kind of blown away by that, because I'm like, she was posting some things about being an ally and all. I'm like, to me, her approach was wrong. You can't expect dialogue, but then when somebody reaches out, say, as a black woman, it's not my place to tell another white woman. It's almost like you need to go do the research on your own. But if you do it on your own, then you might not come to the right conclusion. You know what I'm saying? Because I have to reach out, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just confusing. Like, I'm like, this doesn't really make any sense to me. So that's just kind of where, like, sometimes to me, it's really weird, because having that like guttural reaction, like where I wanted to reach out to my friend Sharon, like I was like, why do I even want to do that? Like, you know what I mean? Because like all of a sudden I put her in this box that like all black people must be mourning right now over George Floyd, when I know that's not the case.
Correct.
Like, not everybody was. Even if it was the majority, like I don't know the numbers or statistically, but I felt at that point, I kind of felt like manipulated by the media, because I'm like, well, why would I? Why would I, like? And that was another reason. Like, I haven't spoken to her. Like, we like each other's pictures on Instagram. She inboxed me like during the election. She's like, I feel so confused. I don't know who to vote for. And I was like, listen, like, I don't really know how to even give you the information on who to vote for. You know what I mean? I'm like, but you know, it's important. Like, just do your research. Like, I don't know where to tell you, because there's so many different. This is why identity politics to me is just tearing everything apart, because I looked at it like, how can I give you opinion? You're a female, you're a black woman. So like, there's all these identity markers. And the reality is I should be able to tell you based off of what I think is good for you as a person. And that's it. Like, at the bottom line, like, this is why I think this is good for all of us. Not, but I felt weird because one, I could be like, well, I'm white splaining, I'm mansplaining, like all these terms that we throw around. It's like, well, I don't want to be that person. Like, I don't want to tell, yeah, I don't want to put myself in a position. I don't want you to look differently at me. So I'm just like, I don't know. So like we put all these like hurdles, in my opinion, when it comes down to race, that just makes things difficult to get to the finish line. Like I look at it like those triathlons where we're jumping over hurdle and hurdle and hurdle. Like, and as you get to the end, it just becomes more difficult and more difficult the more you place in front of us. And that's just my take on it. Like I feel like if we just talk about race in a very simplistic way, like not even race, like as we talk I worded that wrongly. If we talk about humanity and what it takes to be good people in general for everyone, to raise good communities, then that's how we get to it. Like then that's how you start to bridge that gap. Like I have multiple, like I've said on this podcast before, like I have multiple black neighbors who we get along great. We don't talk about, there's no need to talk about everything because there's never any issues. Like if you're, but then there could be a hurdle if a black person moved in and they're loud and they're obnoxious and we don't get along. Maybe they're throwing parties. But then if I'm the white guy or a white woman, and then all of a sudden I'm a fucking Becky or whatever the fuck, what's the fucking
Aaron.
Oh yeah,
Karen, and then I'm a Karen, and it's like, well, yeah, it could be that the person's racist, but it could also be that their lifestyles are different now. Maybe I'm getting up early in the morning, and these people, they're young, maybe, who knows, but they're partying, and then all of a sudden there's that race barrier there that may not have even existed, but now society will tell you, well, if you're having problems, like it could be there. It's like it's so fucking confusing, and I'm like it's mental gymnastics, like trying to kind of figure out, and I don't think that that's natural. Like I just don't. Like I think anybody that you meet in your life, the way they treat you, that's it. Like you, if you guys have a good relationship, like that's it. That's all it takes. Like I meet white people all the fucking time that I can't stand. You know what I mean? There's black people I'm gonna meet that I don't like.
Well,
It's not because they're black. It's just because we don't mesh. Like our personalities don't mesh. And it's the same thing. Like I have one of my good friends who's black is one of the best fucking people. Like I tell him all the time, like, dude, like when we work together, I was like, bro, I think you're, because some of the kids would like kind of talk back to him a little bit. And I was like, dude, you're too fucking nice. Like you are one of the nicest fucking human beings I've ever met in my fucking life. Like he makes me feel like a shitty fucking person.
Oh.
And I'm like, you know, so that's what I'm saying. Like, I think humanity is so much simpler in the way that they can get along based off of just personalities, like just the way you just mesh with some people. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just like you have a best friend. You have a best friend. It's weird, especially as a dude, when you meet another dude and you guys get along really well. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just I don't know, man. It's weird to me. And I think that a lot of the reasons why we're having a lot of the issues that we're having is because the media just kind of takes these things and manipulates them for ratings and for political gains. And that's just it breaks my heart because I'm like, this is not how we're supposed to be living. You know what I mean? And I mean, the majority of my interactions, daily interactions with people, go fine. You know what I mean? But when you go on the internet and you listen to the news, it makes you think of things. I mean, I was on vacation last week. 2 white cops jumped into a pond. There was a pond that froze over in an area that I'm close to, and this black kid fell into the pond. And it was, like I said, it was that day, it was frozen over, but that day it was like 55 degrees. So the ice kind of was like melting. They were walking on the pond, and these white cops fucking smashed into a telephone pole, racing the fuck down there, jumped into the fucking pond to save this black kid. You're not going to see that on the news. You're just not. And those things happen more frequently than the things that you do see on the news. And but the public perception revolves around what they see on the news. And not just that, because there are people that obviously have negative interactions in your daily life. But that's just the craziest part to me, man. Like when I found that out, I'm like, imagine if we highlighted those situations on the news. What would that do? You know what I'm saying? Like, how would we start to see things now? If you turn on the news, if you turn on CNN, if you turn it and you hear about the white cop that saved the young black kid.
Let me ask you a question though. Let's say that they do because I think most people will see the news. Oh, I'm gonna say a large portion of people will see the news through either the internet, social media, or whatever, right?
Oh yeah.
Let's say that story does get posted. Do you think that it gets the same or anywhere near the same clicks and views or hits as, let's say, the white cop killing an unarmed black man?
No, not at all. It never does. I mean, dude, like, what's the saying? If it bleeds, it leads on the news.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and listen, we talked about that again on this podcast, just in general. Like, there's a survival instinct that we all have to always kind of look for the negative. You know what I mean? It's just an internal instinct in us that it's a psychological thing that I forget. Like I was listening to somebody that was like talking about it, that even on a nice day, people will spot out the dark clouds. It's just a natural survival mechanism.
Right.
You know what I mean? Especially now, because we've never been safer up to this point in time. We've never been more safe in any society. And even statistically, like police shootings, like for the past decade have been dropping. You don't see it on the news, but they have been going down. And that's I'm talking about not even just with black people. I'm talking about all around.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So like, there's never been more. Like I was watching fucking the show Vikings, and I'm thinking, I can't even imagine what it would be like to just not know where the fuck your food's gonna eat. Like you got to go hunt for your food. There's always constantly warring fucking tribes that are invading your shores. Like you're living outside for the most part. Like I'm watching people, it's fucking torrential downpouring, and they got like sticks and leaves trying to cover them. They're getting downpoured on. You know what I mean? Medical advances. Like there's never been more of a safe time in history than now for human beings to live in.
Right.
And you would never even know, like the way people react to, but especially in this country, you would never even know it. And I mean, we're even seeing that in context with Ukraine, how safe we are. I mean, we take it for granted. Like we were talking about last week on the podcast, like as Americans, we don't have to worry about Canada running in and trying to take over. We don't have to worry about Mexico running in. And that's who's connected to us. Like if we were in the middle of Europe, America was in the middle of Europe, like we'd be fucked.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. I feel like I went on a long rant there with no responses from anybody.
No, but what I like when you were saying that and you said like, you know, I don't know if you remember earlier when I was trying to say Poe, where I was, Jay, I don't know what to call you there, but remember when I said by the Kanye stuff where I was like, if you're trying to explain yourself, if somebody wants to make you look racist, they can make me look racist. And what I meant by that was going into kind of what Tommy was getting at earlier with it was how they put all these barriers and you're jumping over these hoops, whatever. And I really believe a lot of that stuff that only started recently was stuff that was created to cause us to not be able to connect. So therefore, like he said, like if silence is violence, and then Tommy was saying he got into a weird spot where he was reaching out to somebody, but then was like, isn't that kind of weird that I'm reaching out to this person? Isn't that weird in its own way? And the whole thing is when you try, if you have people being told, like if you're being told, like, if they're not saying something, then they're racist. If they're trying to say something, then they don't think they're racist, then they're racist. I mean, you can't win. You can't never going to find a common ground. And then when Tommy said about like being human, the way I just live my life is like, look, treat others as you want to be treated, period.
Right.
Now, you know what I mean? And so I do think that we got into this weird place with all this stuff where, but honestly, what I think sucks is I have a lot, like literally, I would say probably at least 60-70% of the people I associate with are black people down here. I live in Baltimore. And it's like they're all my friends. And they've always been my friends. I never had to address the fact that they're black. You know what I mean? But then all of a sudden, when all this stuff started going on, there became this thing where I started getting like not liking it because I'm like, I don't want to. All of a sudden, I have to think about my interaction with people because you know what I'm saying? Like all of a sudden, I have to think like, how do I like? I never had to feel that way before, but now I have to act like, I'm watching the news and it's telling me if you're not reaching out to your friend, if you're not hearing from them, whatever. Now I'm like, what do I got to start? Like, I just don't want to talk politics to these people. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to go to I stay out of political conversation anyway with a lot of people because I don't think it's a good place to go, at least in my daily life while I'm working and stuff. But I guess what I'm getting at is like, it's like, imagine, I don't know if I was in a situation and I was with the one thing I've always liked about being around people of different cultures and different races and whatever is that we never address what's going on. And I've always been accepted. And yeah, there's that little thing where somebody will be like, you like, I've had friends say to me like, you're black or whatever, I mean, it's just a little friendly thing. You joke with each other. You know what I mean? But it's like, if I went to a party with these people and every 5 seconds they were coming over and going like, do you feel comfortable eating this because you're white? That would drive me insane. The thing I love is like, they know like fucking, if I don't like it, I won't eat it. If I never had collard greens and I don't like them, then I might get laughed at or something but like, it doesn't mean it's like nobody's highlighting what's going on. Nobody has to make sure I'm accommodated because I'm white. You know what I mean? And I just think that living your life in a way where you just literally just treat others as you be like you can't go wrong if you operate like that. There's no way if you live your life just trying to be a good person. I believe it's a very simple structure. And when you go outside of that box, when you did. When you do something wrong, you did something wrong. You know what I mean?
Did you guys happen to hear? I think I brought it up earlier, but the story about the teacher. It was a teacher who got fired. She's a white teacher, and she's in the classes. I believe the makeup of the class was majority white and had maybe some color sprinkled in. But she got fired. She actually got fired because she was teaching the kids about. She was teaching about tolerance and how you can't say certain words. And she said the N-word. She said, "Hey, you kids, you know what I'm saying? As being white, you shouldn't say that." But she actually said the actual N-word. She said nigga.
Right.
She said it, and of course she got fired for that. And I got into a heated debate about that because I don't know how I feel about that. Granted, I don't understand why she said it. She was teaching it in context of, hey kids, you shouldn't say this word. And because I'm looking at it from the perspective of this of, well, I could tell them not to say. What if a kid? What if I say, hey kids, don't say the N-word? And what if one kid asks me, well, what's the N-word?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's what I was thinking. Like, how old are they if they don't like it would be like you don't say the T word or don't say the F word or don't say you'd be like, well, what's the word?
well,
That's what I'm saying. Like if it's like teenage or something, they know what she's talking about. But like,
yeah.
I don't know how old the kids were, but
Well,
there was a Netflix executive that got fired for the same thing.
Correct.
Well, Jay, I'll
So-
tell you, because I assumed we were going to have this conversation. One thing that was on my mind recently, and then especially when we found out you were going to be on, and I hope I'm directing this question the right way, but I agree, hands down. Like, I think that's a bad choice on that teacher to say the word. Just a bad choice. We could debate right or wrong, but bad choice, maybe. You know what I mean? But don't you think that there's gotta like it is a weird thing that we don't like, just even this, like we want to be equal and we want to be accepted as equal, but there's literally a word in the English language that only half of us are allowed. Like, now here's the thing, I don't want to say it, but half of us are allowed to say it, and the other half aren't. You know what I mean? Like, it's a word. It's a word. And sometimes it can be just like all words. It can be used in a way where it's like, well, I have to say the word. Like you said, like if somebody asked me, you know, if some guy from a different country came over here and said, what is this word I cannot say? You know what I mean? Like, maybe they're explaining it to him, I'd have to tell him the word, right?
Correct.
So I guess what I'm saying is, like, it's a word. And the only reason why I'm saying it like that is I do think that we get into some weird places, because it's, if we wanted to go and really get deep in the debate, it's like, I'm not saying it from an angry white male's perspective of saying, if you can say the word, why can't I say the word? However, at the same time, it's kind of a thing of like, so wait, like I thought about this with Rogan. Rogan used the N-word, so they wanted to take him off of Spotify. And I wanted to, I wanted to tweet out, which I probably shouldn't, because I'd probably look like that baseball player. But I wanted to be like, yeah, I agree. And any other artist who ever used the N-word that's on Spotify, if they have it, and all music with the N-word in it should also be removed from Spotify. And so it wasn't that like I'm mad or that I think Rogan should say it or whatever, but isn't it weird that like there's a platform where you only some people can use the word? And the only reason why I'm not, I understand the context of the word, I understand why, and I get it. However, you do have to take a step back. Is there any, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a word that can't be said by other people in any context.
It's definitely a slippery slope.
Yeah.
And a debate I got into with a guy was, I got into the debate. I said, well, if she can't say it in an educational manner, well, what about actors? Are actors allowed to say it? They say it all the time in movies, especially what's his name, Quentin Tarantino.
I thought that's boom. I
He
thought
loves saying that word. That's his favorite word.
and if this is the thing I thought about, why now I would argue in defense of it, right? Because and I was literally, this is what I mean, where I was having this conversation within myself this past week, and that's why when I knew I'd bring it up at some point with you, because Quentin Tarantino, especially, I just watched a video where Samuel L. Jackson discusses why he always sticks up for Quentin Tarantino being able to use that word. And Samuel L. Jackson said, well, because anybody who writes the kind of characters that he's written for me, where I'm always the smartest man in the room, can't be racist. And I'm kind of like, this sounds like whatever. But the bottom line is, it is weird that I wonder what the thinking is behind that, where it's like, is it that you're portraying a character and that character it's necessary to show that that's who that character is? You know what I mean? But yet it's still an art form, as opposed to somebody just being their true self and saying it. But I agree. It's just weird to me that there's a word. Like, if we took away all context and just said, the rabbit, you know what I mean? Like, what if all of a sudden something happened with the word rabbit and you weren't allowed to say it anymore, but only, you know what I mean? But only other people can. It's just a weird thing that there's a word that if you say it, you can get in a lot of trouble, but in another context, someone else can't.
Well, especially I was actually watching Django
Oh.
for a few minutes last night, and even in a historical context, well, yeah, like I'm sure that's exactly the type of way that it was used during that time frame. So, like, if you can sit there and use it in the movie and watch it, like, why wouldn't a teacher be able to say, "Hey, we do not say this word"? And again, I think it's important too. Like, I don't know how old the kids are, and that's what I mean. Like, mentally, a group of kids, if they're 6 years old, 7 years old, and you're like, you can't say the N word, and they're like, well, what's that? Like, there's a bunch of words that begin with the letter N. So, like, what word are we talking about? And especially maybe they didn't grow up in an environment where it was used. Maybe they don't know what the word is. So, like, that's a weird thing again, and it happened with that Netflix executive who was like, these are words that you can't say. It's like it's even like Kendrick Lamar brought a white fan up on stage
Oh yeah.
and was rapping, and then he was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I'm like, to me, I was like, well, that's fucked up, dude. Like, she's saying your shit. She's a fan of yours. She paid money to come see you perform. I like it's the debate like Jay-Z and Gwyneth Paltrow, like when she tweeted when the song real what that was, that song with Jay-Z and
Niggas in Paris.
yeah. She tweeted that, and people were like, "Oh my God, you can't say that." And Jay-Z was like, "Dude, it's okay." So it's like,
But Jay, as a white guy,
but that's what I'm saying. It's like there's so many different contexts, and it's like so complicated because Jay-Z says it's okay, but the random black dude that doesn't know Gwyneth Paltrow, maybe he doesn't think it's okay.
yeah, but
It's like who the fuck know? It's like, dude, like there are certain contexts, and goes back to the Coleman Hughes thing, where it's like, look, we need to stop just kind of lumping everybody in as a racist. That's like kind of like the KKK leader to the guy that's singing the rap lyrics, the white guy that's singing his favorite rap lyrics, and then a random person hears it and is like, "Oh my God, you can't say that." It's like there's got to be a sane ground where people are like, "Look, I know the difference here."
well, what I was gonna say to Jay is like where I was like, you got to understand the conundrum of a white guy. Like, and this is a perfect example. It's like I go in to buy that CD, and they're like, "What CD? What you like?" You know what I'm trying to say? And it's like, and this is where I mean, where my brain starts to get whatever is like, look, I'm not trying to, I get it. But what I mean is, it's like, but that's what you called your song. And I'm not saying that I want to say it. What I mean is just get in my head for a second where you're like, oh, and then your friend might be like, what song are you talking about? And you're looking over and it's your black friend. And you're like,
well, where do I go about this?
I don't know what to say. And so it's just something, but let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Have you, I personally just believe it is what it is. I can debate all day long the kind of like strangeness, like I said, that there's this word that some people can say and some people can't in any context. However, have you ever heard that word said in a way where it didn't cause you, like, in other words, have you ever like seen somebody explain it, like even if it was a teacher, like you said, or a friend just talking to you about a song, like when you hear that word coming out of a white person's mouth at any moment, does it always cause some type of reaction from you?
So only reason why it never caused, I've always looked at it as more, because it's weird when I actually went to prison, right? I went to prison before, and majority of the dorm that I was in was white, but they were white, but they were immersed in black culture. A lot of them were young white dudes they grew up with Eminem, but they, you know, listen to a little 50 Cent here and there and all that. So a lot of them use the N-word very commonly. The first time I heard it, because I forgot what I was doing, it was behind me. I heard it and they just said it in such a casual way. I turned it, in my head, I was like, what the fuck? But it almost got so common that I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not only reason I don't let it make me or break me. As long as somebody's not calling me that word in a disrespectful tone or something like that,
Right.
Because that has nothing to do with me. Now, as far as my white friends, if I know my white friend, if I know that he says like he likes hip hop and he likes to say it or something like that, like as long as he's not calling me that. Also, but I know if we going somewhere, I let him know, hey, because even though I may not to say I'm cool with it, but I don't have a problem with it either.
Right.
Even though I may not have a problem with it,
Yeah.
you going around to other circles and other people who don't know you like that, they assume whatever they assume. You say the N-word, what's up, my nigga? And
Yeah.
all hell breaks loose.
Well, I that's one thing we talked about on here before. And another strange thing about that word that people don't get is I have a cousin, and I wasn't going to bring this up, but I'll say it now because you mentioned prison and it's exactly what you just described was my cousin. But my cousin Eddie actually just hung himself in prison yesterday. Not to be weird, but you know my cousin Eddie, right, Tom? Eddie Dunphy, Jimmy's older brother. You know him.
Yeah, maybe.
I've even talked about him.
I'm sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah, well, whatever. He's been
Condolences.
out of prison, but he's one of them guys where he, like, I mean, he uses the word like, but here's the thing: he lives in North Philly. He uses the word in environment, like he'll be in the worst possible neighborhood, and it's almost like he just says it. He's like allowed to you. I don't even understand it. I've been with him. You know what I mean? I'll never copy that. But the one thing that I always think about when I think about him is like, that does not carry over. It's the one thing where you can actually, like, in other words, you couldn't tell him that he couldn't use that word if you were in his environment because he wouldn't even understand. He wouldn't even understand this conversation we're having. However, if you took him out of that bad neighborhood and threw him into another bad neighborhood that he's never been to, he can't use that word, even though he probably wouldn't understand that. You know what I mean? Which doesn't make any sense to me because he should. But I'm not arguing his defense. What I'm trying to say is that word, if there's people out there that think that they can use it amongst their friends, or I say, like, I've seen people get in these arguments where they're like, I say, like, as if, like, because this person gave me acceptance, now I have acceptance. Not in a room where you don't know anybody. Don't you dare try it. You know what I mean? But isn't that a weird thing too, where it's like you can actually build up a justified situation where, like, in other words, I could tell my cousin Eddie he shouldn't and couldn't use that word, but his friends that are in that neighborhood ain't telling him he can't. So who am I to tell him he can't even? In that case, I'm telling him he can't use the word, and he feels that he can, and it's justified so in that environment. However, it's just weird to me that, like, there's no carrying that over. Like, there's no carrying that over. It's just the dynamics of that word are intriguing to me and interesting to me. However, it's even so hard to discuss the dynamics of that word without getting yourself into some kind of trouble,
Yeah, and what also makes it interesting too when it's in that context, and I don't remember if we talked about this the last time we had Jay on, but like when we were growing up, when Danny and I were growing up, hip hop was everywhere. I mean, it was literally like, I mean, you had the 80s when it started to come around. The late 80s is when it kind of took off really, and then into the early 90s when we were teenagers, and that's when it just kind of like really took off. And I was like, dude, like I mean, I made mixtapes to sell in high school. You know what I mean? Like like hip hop was, I mean, I liked everything, but hip hop was like everything to me. Like I absolutely loved it. And it's one of those things where hip hop became so influential over American culture in general. It's like, how did you not think that a generation of kids that grew up on that, it wasn't going to influence them into saying it? And there's this like mass confusion because there are some people that are just like ignorant to that fact, like you were saying with your cousin. You know what I mean? He grew up in it. That's his environment. So like it's kind of like removed, like he doesn't know
And he never
there's
leaves that environment either. So it's
right.
like you
And
get him
it's
over to the house for Thanksgiving and you're like, hey, be careful.
yeah, and
You know?
it's like, and it kind of like, this is what I mean, like where it's this weird dynamic because hip hop is predominantly black culture. It is black culture. And then it had such a tremendous impact on so many white kids in a positive way. You know what I'm saying? And in that positive way, they kind of like wanted to be Puff Daddy. They wanted to be Jay-Z. So they kind of started to dress that way. They started to talk that way. There wasn't any, they were idolizing these people. They weren't trying to like be racist and saying these things. They were mimicking these people that they looked up to. And it's kind of weird because I just had a conversation with this young kid that I work with. He's super young. He's like 20, 22 years old. He went to a predominantly black school. And he goes, dude, like we never had the conversations about like race and all this stuff. And he goes, I got in trouble and I got suspended for a day because it's fucked up. But what's fucked up what he did and what he said. But when you think about it, because I'm talking to him, so he had this black girl that was doing his homework. And he goes, oh, that's right, you're my slave. And he's like, dude, I didn't think of it in those terms. So like she told the teacher or whatever, he got suspended. And then he had a conversation with her. He's like, dude, like I don't, and she goes, look, man, I get it. Like I don't, she's like, I was pissed off. So I told, but he's like, we were friends for years. Like, and she obviously she was doing his homework for him. You know what I mean? Like, and he goes, dude, like it was just weird because like it didn't even click in my head. And that's what I mean. Like, it's like we try to make this progress where you have a kid that it's not even clicking in his head that what he's saying has like these historical, obviously, you know, implications that are negative and horrible.
Well, I think you need that.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, that's what I mean. Like you get to that point where you're not even thinking about it. But then somebody does take it a certain way. And then it kind of it's like, boom, we're kind of like taken back.
Well, I would say though, cause I've had something similar. No, I didn't say slave, but this was one that I believe it would be justifiable that you would be like, I didn't see it coming. When I was a young kid, I worked with these older banquet dudes in banquets. And, I mean, literally there was like 75-year-old men that had been working in the hotel industry their whole lives. And they were like really like the higher up servers. And, I said to the guy, yeah, that's my boy over there. And that's all I meant. Like my boy, my friend, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
But he's 75 years old. He fucking flipped out on me. He didn't go rat on me, but he flipped out on me. And we continued to be cool after that. But I do think, like, I would not argue that I didn't mean it or we're getting, I do think, though, that something like that, like, there's things that whenever we're with anyone, you know, and like in other words, you do need a moment like that when you're a kid to realize just even this, just what I learned in that moment was you gotta be careful what you say to everyone. You know what I mean?
Right.
That wasn't even about race. It was just about whatever. And I like, this is kind of how I feel about a lot of what we're even talking about in a sense is like, I could sit here and justify what I said to that guy. However, I'm not going to, and I felt bad. I felt, whoa, like, I don't even know if I could ever fix that. However, kudos to him because I'm very careful how I even say that word and who I say it to. You know what I mean? Just something as simple as my boy. If you are an old man, I ain't calling you yes, my boy. No way. You know what I mean? But what I'm saying by this is, you know, like this is going to sound really dumb, but it's like if you're hanging out with somebody who's got one eye, you might say that, like, as a joke, you've seen in movies where somebody will go, "Hey, keeping and then they're like, "Well, fuck," like I'm like, and the whole thing is, I know that's not the same thing as race, but it's like with every person, there's all kinds of people, and there are things you got to be careful what you say. You know what I mean? Now, I get what Tommy's saying too, though, where it's like, how do you get to a place where none of that shit matters, especially if it's somebody that's your friend? Because when Tommy's talking about somebody doing your homework, I mean, I've seen when I was a kid, people would say that, like, if you were making somebody do something for you and you weren't paying them for, like, somebody might say, that's not your fucking slave or whatever. Come to think of it, though, Tom, even though that word gets said, like, the only connotation of that word to people, even though we know what slave doesn't necessarily have to have racial connotation to it, but it's just probably something that we shouldn't even say.
Oh yeah,
know?
no, absolutely. Like when he told me that story, I was like, "What are you, fucking retard?"
Well,
Like,
yeah, like that's
sorry, I can't even say that. I might get fucking.
well, and there you go.
But
Yeah,
what I'm saying is, like, I was blown away. I'm like, dude, are you serious? Like, you really said that to her?
yeah,
And he goes, and like the look on his face, like he was genuine. He's like, dude, like I really, like, we're really good friends. Like, it just didn't dawn on me.
yeah. I'm more surprised he didn't, like, at least, acknowledge it right after he said it. Like, if he really just was that fucking.
Yeah, he's like, dude, I didn't think of it at all. And he's like, I didn't think of it until obviously I got in trouble for it. But it's interesting too, man. Like, Jay, I don't know if you ever watch like reaction videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
Dude, like that's my like I watch fucking reaction videos. Like I might as well just cancel my fucking.
I love the black dude that, like, every time he watches them making some type of food.
Oh yeah,
You know what I'm talking about?
yeah.
Like, what
But
the fuck?
yeah, but I watch fucking reaction videos to everything, and like mostly music videos. But a lot of the people that I follow reacting to music videos now, they're starting to react to like comedy specials, political debates, I guess just social commentary. And this one dude, an older, well, I don't know, he's a black guy, maybe I want to say fucking maybe in his 40s, 50s. I say older dude, not realizing that the dude might even be fucking my age because I'm fucking old now.
Yeah, they'll always be older, Jay.
Yeah.
You're a young man, but
Right.
like when you're 50 and you're looking at like a 38-year-old woman, you'll be like, I'll take that old bitch.
So he was reacting to this video that I think I saw Thomas Sowell, who was kind of like, when I clicked on it, I thought he was reacting to something he was saying. But it was this video, it was like this historical breakdown of whites in the South. and how there were whites in the South that were looked down upon by northern whites, and the way they dressed, their sexual promiscuity, their language, as soon as, because they had that southern accent, and they were literal white people that were going into businesses that wouldn't get served as soon as they heard their language, like their that accent. And the black dude reacted to it. He's like, holy shit, like I didn't even know that, like it's crazy. So, and they were talking about, because there was something with, I guess, like the southern slang that they were saying. I don't even remember exactly, but they basically equated that with lack of intelligence. So all this different stuff. And what I'm trying to say is like it's crazy because they were making parallels of like how that's carrying over in in today, in the way like in the generation in those poor Southern whites and the slang and everything. Now it's coming into play into urban inner city black communities, especially down in the South. I'll send it to you because watching it, you'll have maybe a better understanding of what they were trying to say. But the dude reacting to it was like, wow, that's crazy. And I was like, dude, it's interesting. It's interesting because, you know, you could have some people that be like, oh, that's black culture. But at one point, it was considered white culture. Like there were whites that were kind of discriminated and looked down upon for the way they did. And now it's kind of like you kind of see it in, like I said, in the urban black communities. So it was like really interesting when I was watching that. I was like, wow, I didn't even know it.
You ever watch Fargo?
That's a black movie, right?
No, Fargo. No.
I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding.
But that's not down south though, right?
No, isn't that like it's like
that was like the Northwest or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, kind of Missouri, and
okay.
It's right above the South. It's really right there. But I'm only bringing it up because the final season had the last season had Chris Rock in it.
Oh,
and he was playing a mob.
Wait, because there was a movie.
Yeah,
it's based off the movie, but it's been different seasons based on 3 different cities and 3 different real life stories.
I never watched it. I heard it was good.
But the final season that they had Chris Rock playing a mob boss and a black mob boss over the black neighborhoods, and I believe it was the 50s. But also they had, I guess, I want to say I don't think they was Italian. I want to say like Sicilian or something like that.
Yeah.
It was Sicilian people. Both of them were discriminated against. Because they had a scene where one of the bosses of the Sicilian side, he gets shot in the neck by this little kid or something. He got shot in the neck, and they took him to a hospital, a white hospital, and they turned him away and said, "No, you got to go to the Sicilian hospital. You can't come to this hospital." So they were almost treating them like they were black, but also the Sicilian people. Like I said, he's saying Sicilian. I hope that's correct. I'm accurate what I'm saying. But they were looking down on the black people. So even though they were getting looked down, by
the Sicilians get looked down by because Sicilian is Italian, but they say you're Sicilian, not a full Italian because they're mixed.
Right.
They're mixed in Italy. They're like a mixed area. So, and that just shows you that you're saying like the structure of like they're being looked down upon and then they're looking down upon someone else as well.
Black culture. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing too. It goes back to hurt people, right? So it's like you get discriminated against. So then you got to find somebody that you can look down upon. You know what I mean? Well, it goes back to the complexities of the human psyche, man. Like it's just we're
dude,
animal.
Identity politics kind of stuff started when we were getting like Irish people were coming over, Italian people were coming over, and then black people were already here pretty much because, you know, unfortunately the history of slavery. And so as these people were fighting with each other for jobs, political people wanted their so basically it's like once these people could like vote or whatever, what started happening was it was during all the immigration stuff, they were pinning certain people against each other. And that kind of jumped around at times because of depending upon what the immigration kind of demographics were. But it was like they were pinning the Irish against black and the blacks against Irish. And you know, that like old thing, like Irish need apply and stuff. Like there were times where it was, for some reason, politically, important, politically, whatever, for people to have the Irish and black join up against the Italians. So they would feed the Italians like the blacks and the Irish are taking all your jobs or whatever else. And it's just kind of crazy when you see like how every immigrant went through a really shitty ride over here. You know what I mean? during like during like the 1870s to 1920s type of thing, where it was like at one point, literally, it was like each individual group that came over was treated like they were the scum of the earth. You know what I mean? And even by the other groups who had once been treated like the scum of the earth. Does that make sense?
That's correct. You're correct. Yeah.
Yeah, no, well, it's like gangs in New York. Like it was like the Irish versus the Italian and that. And like I was saying, like I'm watching, like I just rewatched Vikings, and they couldn't get along. Like they had warring tribes, Scandinavian tribes were fighting. Then they tried to invade France. They looked down upon, like the French completely thought they were scums of the earth, and they had two different gods. So they were heathens. It's just, dude, it's crazy. Like, so even though they were the same color, they found every reason to look down on one of each other. Like, it's just so crazy to see that. And it's just like, dude, it's, and then that's what I mean. Historically, like we see this stuff has happened time and time again. And then we're living in today's society where there's never been a culture, there's never been an area, a country that is so diverse as we are. And I think we're so much harder on everybody. Like, it's like, dude, as diverse as we are with everything, black, white, Asian, Muslim, Christian, gay, straight. I mean, dude, it's everything under the fucking sun. Hate crimes are going to fucking happen. Like, it's just going to happen. Now, for the most part, though, I think we do a pretty fucking good job at it. Like, because, I mean, if it was, again, you look back at the Vikings, like, them motherfuckers couldn't stand each other. Right. You know what I mean? Like, even the Indians were constant warring tribes. So, I don't know, man. It's wild, but
I just hope Jay isn't like, man, I just listen to these white boys rant for
Oh, no. But I did have a question for y'all, though.
Yeah.
Because I've always pondered this. This is something I always pondered. It's not just a black and white, but I mean, I think we can both see it from both of our perspectives. As a black man, as a white male, right. We can see it from both of our perspectives. Would you consider somebody racist if, let's say, they don't hate, and they don't have to be a black and white thing. We could use another, but let's just say a white male hates a black. Let's say he doesn't hate black people, but he hates a certain type of black people. That, let's say he hates the urban black guy, with the hip hop clothing, the grills in his mouth, chains, the stereotypical, right?
Right.
Does that make him racist if he only hates, if he only hates a certain type of another race?
That's it. My answer is yes, but only because I just think that I do think you're racist if you think you can just say, like, it depends on what his actions are from there. If it's like, I won't, like, in other words, if I'm in a room and somebody says, "Oh, this is my cousin Tony," and you're like, I ain't fucking talking to that dude because he's got a grill in his mouth and whatever else. Yeah, I think you can have your opinion on how people should carry themselves and everything else, but like what if I said I like Indians, but only the ones that like dress like kind of like regular settlers and not like the tribal ones. You know what I mean? Like, you're racist if you cut a group of anyone off because of the way that they carry, because of the stereotypical way that you think they are, and therefore you will refuse to deal with them and actually openly say, I hate those people. You're wrong. But like, I guess with me, I mean, I kind of like, I would say I hate rednecks or something. Cause I mean, I guess I kind of do, but at the same time, I like it. I mean, I've been to parties where I meet somebody who might not be the kind of person that I would assume that I would connect with. And I would never put a wall up and not interact with those people. But if I was driving down the street and a bunch of dudes were like American flagging it and drinking and hanging out of a trailer park, I'm not going to like get out and be like, hey, what's going on there, fellers? You know what I mean?
See, I don't think it does. I don't think it does. And I don't think it does because if he's discriminating against somebody off personality traits, because you're saying he
No,
gets along with
he said urban black people who have like, in other words,
Stereotype.
so then there's a difference between, so you're making a difference between the two groups of black people then, because you said that he gets along with black people, but then like if it's like an urban,
How to dress,
right,
jewelry,
so then it's
grills.
oh, we're
so
talking
it- so
about
it's-
visuals, Tom. We're not talking about like personality traits. We're
well,
talking
no,
about
but
like
but that's what I'm saying. It is it's no different than like I kind of like brought it like so like right now like I have black people on both sides of me that I have no problems with. I don't like, well, the one woman I'm close with. The other people are relatively new, but I've never had any problems with them. Like I said hello, they said hello. There's no issues there. But like if somebody came in like and like Jay saying it was like an urban type guy and I had problems with them, like then
no, but
then maybe. But that's what I'm saying. Like I don't understand how you could.
no. The question was,
It would be no. I understand. Well, at least I think I understand the question.
let's Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, but what you're not saying like I get like I said, you can have an opinion of like, man, every time I see these dudes with their like if they're coming outside
Okay.
of
Let me.
their
What would be?
car or whatever.
Okay. Here. Okay. Let me ask you this question then, Jay. If one, if the white guy doesn't like the urban guy, what is the black opposition to the urban guy?
Confederate flags. Anytime black
No,
people.
no.
Oh.
I'm saying like
Yeah, but
Oh,
like there's white people and then there's white trash. So if like you're saying that the white guy likes black people, but he doesn't like the urban looking black guy.
but that's what I'm saying. Like,
So like
as
what
far
would
as
be the opposite?
as black people,
Right.
we look at I would say most black people. We see white people with a Confederate flag. Our first thing that pops in a lot of our head is automatically racist.
Racist, right.
So the same
right.
same way they may look at an urban black man with jewelry and clothes like this and that, they may look at him like a thug.
Right.
We've been taught to associate the Confederate flag, people who wear the Confederate flags or having it in their trucks or whatever, or waving in their yard as racist.
Right.
So that would be the kind, you know what I'm saying? That would be
well, but where
right. So there's cultural differences there. That's what I'm saying. So like if you like when it comes to who you associate with, you're going to associate with people like-minded individuals. It's like it's the same thing with Republicans and Democrats. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of natural. So I don't think like I actually this is something that we talked about on the last podcast. Like let's say that somebody listens to this podcast and decides that a black person listens to this podcast and thinks that I'm racist. Well, if I have a conversation with, I don't know, Candace Owens, maybe Candace Owens doesn't think I'm a racist. And I agree with Candace Owens, but maybe the black guy that doesn't like me, that thinks I'm a racist, maybe he's a Democrat. And the ideologies are different. It's not based off of the skin color. It's the way you live your life, the way you present yourself, the way, you know what I'm saying? It's the way you present to the world and your ideas.
Well, may I? Because I want to make sure the question was this way.
Yeah. Okay.
If you're wearing a Confederate flag, it's. I mean, I might not like a white liberal. I like white women, but I don't like liberal women that wear "fuck Donald Trump" shirts. You know what I mean? That's a different thing. But my question I feel like the question you presented to me was, can you be racist? Can you be not racist if you like a certain, like you don't have a problem with a certain kind of race, but you do have a problem with a portion of that race? Well,
right. So you know what? To make it like this, so think about it like this. Let's say a white guy's walking down the street and he sees a black male who's dressed urban, and in his mind, every time he sees that, he wants to go to the other side of the street, or he turns around, or he tries to evade this person at every cost because of what he believes that person is. He already automatically don't even met this person. He just in his mind based on what he's wearing, his complexion of his skin, the way he carries himself, he believes that this guy's a thug. So he turns around, and vice versa. As a black man walking down the street, sees Confederate flags, all of that, stereotypical.
So my answer to that question would be that's racist, but then like as Tommy brought up earlier, look, if it's 10 o'clock at night and I'm in a bad neighborhood and there's 3 guys that are dressed urban hanging out on the corner in a neighborhood I'm not familiar with, I'm gonna go with my instincts of just like these guys, like there's a million things that they could be up to, but at the same time, being the situation I'm in, I can still have an opinion at that moment. However, if I'm at a party and somebody's like, hey, come meet my friend Robert, and he's a black guy dressed in urban, and I'm like, nah, I don't talk to people like that, I'm racist. Like if you just disconnect from a
I disagree with it.
So you see a couple dudes dressed as hip hop, and I come over, I say, Tommy, come meet my 3 friends over here. This is my Jim, whatever, and they're rappers. And you're like, I don't associate with dudes that look urban. That doesn't make you racist. I don't associate with black people that dress like that. That doesn't make you racist. I think so. Now, if they were wearing Kill Whitey shirts or in vice versa, wearing Confederate flag shit, 100% you ain't wrong. But if you haven't met a human being and you're judging them by the color of their skin and the way they're dressed,
but you're
in a safe environment,
you keep going back to you're judging them off the color of their skin, but
that's what he's asking.
Yeah, but he was like, he used physical attribute, the way they dress, their clothes.
Yeah,
their clothes and their grill. So that's what I'm saying. So that's what I'm saying. So like you can automatically assume, you can have a preconceived, that's stereotypes.
No, but he said you don't like. No. Wait. This is what we're saying. I said you disassociate. In other words, I could say to you, it seems like 90% of the people I meet like that, I don't like, and whatever. But I mean, like that would be the same as saying like I don't like Tom. I'll back off. It's not that important of a thing. But what I mean is, his question is, are you racist if you automatically disassociate yourself with a certain, not a whole race, but a portion of the race that has a certain, like in other words, it would be the same thing as saying like do it on the reverse. Like do it on the reverse. Like I don't like. So what you're basically saying is, oh, it's okay for me to say I like black people, but not ones that dress like that. I like black people that are in a business suit, and I won't talk to a black person that's not in a business.
Because if I step into a room full of fucking biker dudes that are fucking loud and rambunctious, that don't look anything like me,
you're adding loud and rambunctious. You're adding loud and rambunctious.
Because maybe I'm confused here, because
that's what I'm trying to calm you down. I hand you a picture. I hand you a picture of biker dudes. I hand you a picture of biker dudes, and I hand you a picture of regular white people, and I say,
I'm probably going to want to hang out with a non-biker dude.
I said you could have an opinion, but if I said, these are my cousins and they're coming over tomorrow and I'd like you to meet them, and you said, I don't meet people that look like that, you're racist. If you're in that case, you just did, because we're talking about white people, not like,
well, he didn't actually put it into context. Like, I don't associate with those people. Like,
avoid them at all costs. Like
avoid them at all costs. That's why I'm trying to back
down the sidewalk, and then you turn around because I don't. You're already judging them.
Or no, you're
But again, I would do the same. Like it's the same. It's the Mark Cuban reference that I brought up earlier. That if he's walking down the street,
and I referred to what you said.
It's the same thing.
I referred to what you said, where I said, if you're walking down the street and there's 3 people that are dressed like bikers, and you don't know them, you'd be smart to be like, probably not where I want to go. However, the question isn't, would you be more likely to turn around if you've seen people dressed urban or whatever. The question was simply, would you still be considered racist if you, because I think the question he's asking is, clearly you don't consider yourself as someone who doesn't like black people, because you do like black people. However, you at all cost will not, it could go the other way. I will not deal with black people that wear business suits. You know what I mean? And I only like black people that are dressed in street urban gear. We're not talking about mentally how you,
but that's what I'm
feel when
saying.
you
Like,
meet them. Well, that was his question, is all I'm saying. I'm just trying to.
I don't know. I don't understand how. I don't know how you could be racist and say, well, I can associate and hang out with black people that are in business suits, but I can't associate with urban black people. That's what I'm saying. I don't think.
Well, that's why I used the Indians in my reference to go back to make it something simpler, where I said, I like Native Americans, but only the ones that dress like settlers, not the ones that still wear their Indian garb.
You know,
you're racist towards Indians.
I mean, listen, there's also, I don't know. I think in that situation, it's kind of like a weird scenario, I guess. But I've met people that, even like white people, just regular people, just anybody, that I was like, based off of like a couple minute interaction, I was like, I'm not gonna like this fucking dude.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing. Interaction is take the interaction out of it.
Yeah, just visual. You see this person.
You see the person.
You get your judgment just off seeing them.
But that's what I'm saying. Even that, I think is stereotypes. I don't think it's racist, because you could do the same thing again. Like I was saying, as a white guy, I would do the same thing to a white person based off of their appearance.
Tommy, do you know who Jamie Kennedy is?
Jamie Kennedy? Yeah.
He's from your neighborhood.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just use him for example, right? He dresses he in the early 2000s. He dressed urban, right?
Yeah.
He used to dress urban.
Yeah,
just imagine a guy being in the elevator, and let's use two different scenarios, right? It's one he comes in. Let's say in one day he gets in the elevator, and then Jamie Kennedy walks in, and he just say, "Hey, how you doing?" Even though, and let's say the next day, Ice Cube walks in the elevator, but he has on the same exact outfit as Jamie Kennedy. But at that time, he develops a fear of Ice Cube because of that urban look combined with the skin color, and it's easy for him to criminalize him. So he decides, I'm gonna walk out this elevator. I'm not taking any chances with this guy, even though him and Jamie Kennedy were wearing the same exact outfit.
And let's imagine the environment's safe. You're in an elevator at 3:00 in the afternoon in downtown Philadelphia. You're not on the projects.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's very easy to just call that person racist if they have reluctance based off of it. Would be this. I mean, look, after Columbine happened, white dudes walking down the street in trench coats and shit, you'd be like, yo, that motherfucker's a school shooter. You know what I mean? Like after 9/11, you see a Muslim guy on the plane, you'd be like, oh shit. Like it's a natural, it's a human thing that people do, a survival thing. Just like as a black guy, if he sees a guy with a fucking Confederate flag on, he might be like, yo, I might have a fucking problem with this dude. It's a survival thing, and I think there's a big difference.
No, but you're getting it wrapped up because you're talking about the fear part of it. You're adding, I understand that, but like if you stood up before you got on an airplane because there was a fucking Arabian man there that you weren't sure whether he was, Afghan or whatever, but he was the brown skinned guy that you said, as we all get a little like, yeah, I'm going to keep my eye out after 9/11. But if you were someone who's seen a family like that and stood up and said, I will not get on this airplane. I will not get on this. And that you're not speaking to these people, whatever, but you're like, I don't want to be around those people. So like the only reason why I'm being adamant about this is, yes, Tommy, you're 100% correct in the fact that like people will have like, there's a lot of other factors at play when it comes to that. But the question is just simply, if you see a person and that someone, like I said, like I Ice Cube's in the elevator and he's with me but we don't have to even know each other or something. And the Ice Cube turns around to you, and it's very clear that like you're not in a scary situation. That's why I said you're in a downtown apartment complex where you can't even be in that elevator unless you paid for a certain amount. And if you just instinctively say to yourself, I don't even want to get me out of this elevator. I can't stand these kind of people. I don't like black people that dress like that. You're racist, if you ask me. Now, you want to talk about being a little fearful.
Yeah, I guess I don't really know how to answer that question because I'm looking at it like as a basic human being. Like, yes, there are going to be stereotypes that you may have when you see, and that goes for everybody. When you see certain types of individuals, you might feel a certain type of way. You know what I mean? Like if I'm trying to think, if like Carlton from fucking Fresh Prince,
Correct.
you know what I mean, is hanging out with me, and I don't know, fucking I'm trying to think of somebody that I can compare him to that would be like urban.
Will, just Will Smith.
Well, Will isn't really urban. Like Will, there was
supposed to be.
Yeah, like Will didn't. Like Will didn't wear grills in his mouth like you were describing. Like he wasn't that guy.
Well,
like that.
I don't think that was popularized just yet though. I don't think the grills.
And
maybe not even what is the chains kind of was.
But Tom, I think the part that you're missing, and Poe, correct me if I'm wrong, is it doesn't have to be Will. It could be Carlton. It's just your preference. So you could say
no, it's your preference. That's what I mean. Like you,
no, but it's not your preference of wait. But you're
saying that's what I'm saying. There's
no. Wait. Just wait. Visual. I walk into a house, and Carlton walks up to me, and says, "Hi, my name's Carlton," and I'm like, I just put my hand in the air because I don't. Am I right? That's what you mean. Like I don't even want to associate with this person before I know them.
Don't give an opportunity. Yeah. Correct.
Okay. I'm going to give you a perfect example here. I really can't stand chicks that wear fucking really long fingernails. I saw a girl today on her Instagram that was like doing like a joke. She had them super long fucking talons and she was trying to pick up a quarter in her thing. She's gorgeous. But in my head, I was like, bro, I wouldn't even fuck with this girl. That's how bad her nails get on my nerves. Does that make me gay?
Tom, this is a bad analogy.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
No, it's not. I still like women. And it's the same thing with like races. Like I can still.
Okay, Tom, you walk into Wendy's and there's a girl behind the counter who has long fingernails like that. And I say, okay, you're up next. And you're like, nah, I'm going to go somewhere else unless somebody else is up there. You're talking about, again, preference of like, yes, there's certain people I tend to hang out with and they tend to not have grills and shit, whatever else. However,
that's how I took the question. Like, can you be friends with black people, but not certain black people? Not
friends. It was, are you racist if you don't dislike a whole race of people, but you 100% will not associate with a stereotype within that race?
Well, I don't even remember 100%. I don't know, man. That's just a complicated question, I guess.
Oh, that's what I meant.
I'm just getting confused because I'm looking at it like, dude, I'm natural. Like there's absolutely black people that I don't like, but there's absolutely white people that I don't like.
Of course.
I don't think you deny them that right just based off physical appearance. Like I think even if a dude was, that's what I'm saying. If a dude was dressed urban, you would still might still have a conversation and find out he's a cool dude. You would give him that right. What I'm saying is there could be a potential racist who looks at him and he don't even want to have a conversation with him. He don't want to be in the same room with him. If his daughter brought that guy home,
but then again, and then they could get complicated there because it's like I might see that guy coming to the door and be like, oh God, this is what my daughter's messing with. But if I talk to him, get to know him, and he turns out to actually be a nice guy, just happens to have a different way. And so the thing is, and that's again being just trying to make it as simple as possible is what my analogy was when I brought up the Indian thing, because it was the only way I could transcribe in the simplest form what I think Poe was asking, which is like,
Right.
yeah, I think you're racist. I think if you disassociate with any portion of, because the thing is just like you said about how Italians hate Sicilians. It's like Italians are racist against their own race in a sense at a time.
Correct.
You know?
Correct.
Yeah. So if you're Italian, but you won't associate with somebody because they're Sicilian, and then you find out your sister is dating a Sicilian, and you want to kill him, or you can't stand it or whatever, and you haven't even met the guy, then yeah, that's an issue. But it happens, and it gets a little bit more complicated. It might be like Tommy said earlier, where it's another layer of it. You know what I mean? It's like you're not the fucking Grand Master of the KKK, but you definitely got some work to do on yourself.
Correct.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I was just a little bit, because I'm like, wait a minute, I don't.
Well, that's why I was even trying to go back and say to you, like, I brought up your Jordan Peterson thing to say, if I'm walking down the street at 10 o'clock at night in a neighborhood that I ain't been in.
Well, no, that wasn't Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson was talking about the in-group preferences between individuals. That was Mark Cuban, Mark Cuban was the one who said, if I'm walking down the street. So that's what I'm saying.
I mean, you have to be aware of your environment, and like in other words, like same thing. Like I said about like, if I'm walking down the street and I hear vroom, vroom, fucking dudes just sitting on the thing, fucking drinking beers and got leather jackets on and say fucking Snake Biscuit on the back of it or something. Like, I mean, they might end up being good guys, but I ain't taking any fucking chances. I'd rather get on the other side of the street and get the fuck away from them.
Right.
However,
and dude, that's what I'm saying. There's so many different variables that come into play. I don't know, like the way I was just looking at it. There's so many different variables that come into, like, just if you're like a dude that's like 5'4", and like a big ass, like a 6'5" dude comes and stands next to you, like there's gonna be at least I would imagine. I feel like, because I even like, dude, if it's 6'5" dude, 6'7", like there's just a different presence there of intimidation that you're like, holy shit, this is a big motherfucker. Like there's an instinct there. You know what I'm saying? There's an instinct there, I think, for women, like, and how they determine, how they visualize threats.
No, I'm with you on that, but what I'm saying is when you add in a layer, right?
Yeah.
How I could be at a party, one dude, a black dude can be dressed this way, and a white dude can be dressed the same exact way, and I associate with the white dude, but I'm scared to associate with the black dude because he's dressed in the same way, but I'm not. Because basically, it's not you're not having a problem with him dressed urban.
Well,
you're having a problem with him dressed urban, but being black, or vice versa.
From personal preference, I think I'd much rather hang out with the black dude with the grills than the white, the Island Boys.
Oh.
Well, yeah, like, see, that's what I'm saying. Like the Island Boys, like I wouldn't really want to hang out with those dudes.
Nobody wants to hang out with those dudes.
Like their persona and everything to me is like, it's just corny. Like I don't like, but I guess who would be a black guy that looks like the Island Boys? Maybe Kodak Black.
Kodak Black, yeah, Kodak Black.
That's exactly
what.
But
that's a lot. So, but see, if you're in a certain part of Florida, that's all you're gonna see. So it's just like
I know,
yeah.
And so, I feel bad for picking on Kodak Black because he voted for Trump.
Did he vote for Trump?
Well, yeah, he can't.
I
vote.
don't.
Yeah, but
actually, no, I don't. But Trump, I think, got him out of jail or some shit.
Yeah, he bailed him out. Him and Lil Wayne.
Lil Wayne too. Oh,
Lil Wayne too. Yeah. Lil Wayne had a gun charge.
You know what though? Either way, I don't even care. Listen, you know what I will say? Listen, just because you said it, and so I'm sure somebody could come up with some, like, as they probably have, like, as if they're like, there's a reason why he did it or whatever, blah blah. But the bottom line is, what I will give Trump is, I'm sure there had to be people out there going, "Don't do this."
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Don't do this.
All right. Well, okay. So here's the thing. I just saw Kodak Black on an interview. It was like one of those weird. It was on Barstool Sports, You know the guy with the long, who's like a blonde hair guy. He's got long hair, and there's like this like heavy set fat guy that sits there and eats ice cream, and they have like these weird interviews.
Oh, they're the best. They're the best interviews ever.
They're funny. They're funny as shit. They're funny as shit. But if I saw Kodak Black, I probably would think I'm not gonna like this guy. And listening to him talk, I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't want to hang out with this guy. Does that make me racist?
Not if you're adding if what differentiates him from a white dude looking the exact same way is his race.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I would look at
that's what I'm saying. Though.
Yeah, okay.
And what differentiates the two of them is the race. They can be the exact same.
Because I would look at the Island Boys. When I see the Island Boys, like I have the same reaction. Like I'm like, you look like a fucking
right.
Like
let's just keep it as simple as this. I think that this is a racist statement. If I was to say, I like black people, but I don't like black people that do this, you know what I mean, or that dress like this. You know what I'm saying? Like in other words, in other words. That is exactly what you're saying. Like it would be like some guy who says, "Oh, I like black people. Just I hate black people that dress with their pants down and whatever else, and I won't ever talk to those people." I mean, that's a racist statement. You know what I mean?
If you ain't vote for Joe Biden, you ain't black.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That was racist.
Yeah. So even that, like without ever meeting them, without ever meeting the people, it's like there's two kinds of black people, and I only like one of them. The ones that voted for Joe Biden. That like if you will like eliminate a portion of a race based on something even as simple as that without ever knowing the person, that you know what I mean? Like the same way they said that in reverse. Like that's exactly true what you're saying too. It's the same thing.
That was like kind of fucked up, but it's no different than like Hillary Clinton when she was on with Charlemagne the God,
and she brought hot sauce out of her purse,
and she was like, I got hot sauce, and Charlemagne was like, now you know they're gonna say you're pandering, right? And you could even hear her voice kind of changed a little bit. Like suddenly there was like more of like a Southern accent that kind of came out.
Do you think like,
what are you doing?
And that's why I like Charlemagne. That's why I like Charlemagne. Whether he's liberal but he speaks his mind. He says something that we're all thinking. He's unapologetic, and I think we need more people like that.
So here's the thing. So I had that conversation with you about him, and I said I'm confused about him because there's things that he says that I agree with, and there's things where I'm like, dude, you're either racist or you're super ignorant. Like he's not, because like he doesn't like white rappers. I mean, he's like open about that. He
hates Post Malone.
He hates Post Malone, but Post Malone isn't really.
It's context. You gotta get context of why you hate Post Malone. Post Malone made some comments about hip hop, about how he doesn't like hip hop. You don't listen to rap.
But this was prior to those comments. I know you're talking about. I remember those comments because he said something about that.
But even then, I think his biggest problem was that he traded in his country music career when that wasn't popping off to jump into a rapper and become the stereotypical, almost like black rapper, like with the white Iverson, the cornrows, the grills, the chains. That's from. If I remember the interview, why he said he hated him. I believe that's why he said he hated him. Well, not hated him, but that's what he didn't like about him is that he almost switched up his style because he can get popping in black culture. And then once you got popping in black culture, you completely abandoned black culture and went back to your, you know what I'm saying, to doing because he don't even make hip hop anymore, really like that. He went straight from that.
The last album was hip hop.
Now, I don't know.
I think so. I think his last album was
no, his last album. Listen, I'll say this because I like Post Malone, and I see this with guys like MGK and stuff like that. I feel like there's these white dudes that they sneak into the business by being a rapper, and then you start to see that really like Post Malone wants to be like he loves the Red Hot Chili Peppers. he's now starting to branch out and be something different. Now I love Post Malone, so I'm not talking shit on him.
Yeah, I love him too, though. It's just
But it's like it starts to be like, wait, it's like what the very first when I brought this up kind of for a second, we were talking about Kanye West. When I did not like Post Malone forever because I seen this video of him and he was like over the top. He was like, yeah, all I do is, it was fucking when White Iverson came out and he was like talking about all he was do is coke and fucking and fuck girls and this. And he was just so over the top trying to be a gangster that I didn't even want to, I'm like, that's, like I can't listen to this guy. And then come back and I'm starting to like his music. And now he's going off in a very weird direction, which, you can argue that's him artistically growing or something.
Right.
But I have this thing, like, it's like MGK. Didn't he just do something where he made a completely different album, like a pop?
He completely switched. Like he like did a complete 360.
Well, he's an actor more than he is any kind of musician in my eyes.
Yeah,
I wouldn't even say that. I don't even. He's only been in like 2 fucking things.
No, but first off, he's really good in them, and second off, what I mean is, I would say that like, dude, a skinny white dude like that probably never even fucking been in a fight in his whole life. You know what I mean? And acting like he's tough and picking a fight with Eminem right off the bat. Like, I think some of these guys are just created. You know what I mean?
Well, see, he's been around for a long time, MGK. So it wasn't
2012.
Yeah, he didn't just pick this fight with Eminem. He's been around for a while.
No, when he picked his fight in like 2015 or something.
2012.
No.
He made the comments about Haley in 2012.
Yeah, but the diss songs were only like 2 years ago, 3 years ago at the most.
Right, because Eminem didn't know about a tweet until like I guess like a couple years later. Well, the tweets were made in like 2012, but Eminem didn't. Yeah.
The whole thing is that dude, if you like you said, Poe, he mentioned them in 2012. Like, it's like a guy coming in and he's finding an angle. Like, his whole thing was, I want to be famous and finding an angle. You know what I mean? That's I could be wrong. I'm just saying from opinion. I feel like there are some white dudes that get in there and they find an angle. Look at the fucking Island Boys. Like, are they even a thing? Like, they're not real. They create, or what's his face? Even the dude that ended up ratting everybody the fuck out.
Tekashi 6ix9ine.
Yeah. So Tekashi 6ix9ine, did we lose you, Poe?
Yeah, we lost your visual.
Just give me 1 second.
I was gonna say that's a way to go out there. He was like Tekashi 6ix9ine, and he disappears.
Well,
but no. What I mean is, even though Tekashi 6ix9ine isn't a white dude, but he's a dude who like literally went as far as to tattoo his whole body just to create a persona to become a character to break into an industry. You know what I mean? Now, people have argued that he's actually pretty damn good, but he definitely like started to, rather than live a life and then portray it in music, he wanted to be a musician. So he started to act like he lived that life.
Yeah, dude. So I'm gonna address the fucking whole MGK thing. And here's my thing with, as somebody like, I don't know if I told you on the last podcast, I wanted to be the fucking white Puff Daddy. So like, I was making mixtapes, and like, for a white guy in hip hop to succeed, it is like, it's so difficult for a white guy to succeed. I mean, now you're kind of seeing a little bit more, but even like before, I mean, you got Eminem, and before Eminem, there was a couple guys like, I mean, obviously you had the Beastie Boys,
right?
You had Third Base, you had
Vanilla
Ice. House of Pain. Vanilla Ice was more of like,
dude, don't downplay the goat. Don't downplay the goat.
I feel like he was more like pop, like it wasn't real, like he was manufactured, like he wasn't real. So other than that, I can't, off the top of my head, at that time, I can't think of any other.
New Kids on the Block, right?
Well, they weren't hip hop.
No, not at all. They weren't hip hop.
Yeah,
When
they
Mark?
weren't.
Oh, okay.
No,
But I
no, they
thought
were.
Marky Mark used to rap or
No,
Mark
Mark,
you're
Wahlberg?
yeah, but he was by himself. He was a solo guy,
Oh, okay.
and
well.
he was
Donnie Wahlberg used to. Didn't he play like the bad boy that
he
made?
was
He
yeah
never rapped though, did he?
I don't think so. Donnie though is Mark's older brother, so like Donnie was like the bad boy hip hop image in New Kids on the Block, but they were cookie cutter boy band.
Oh
Like
no, yeah, 100%. No, but Marky Mark was like a rapper ish.
Correct.
yeah, so like he had, but again, that was more of like a pop. It wasn't like real. Like
But that
Beastie Boys
Was
were
hip
like
hop, yeah.
real hip hop. Third Base was real hip hop. House of Pain was real hip hop. Like those guys were like pop. It was like pop rap. Like I don't even know really how to, like, yeah, they're in the conversation, but they weren't legit. Like they weren't legitimate.
yeah, but that's even what we're even talking about now is like it's a lot of these guys who aren't
But
legitimate.
so that's what I'm saying. So like it was, so here's why I'll make the case for these, as Dame Dash would say, culture vultures. It is so difficult for a white guy to succeed in hip hop. And like for me, like I loved hip hop, but I also had like I loved U2. I loved Korn. Like there was rock music that I also listened to, but predominantly I was really into hip hop. So as I got older, my musical tastes changed. So like I couldn't really relate to Mobb Deep anymore. You know what I mean? Like it just as I got older, my mentality shifted. Like it just wasn't the same type thing.
Correct.
So it's easier for like the white guy to be the rocker, the white rocker guy. And I think some of these guys maybe they had that kind of, well, they were pretty hip hop, but I think you have limited success because MGK had a big hit with I forget his fucking name, Waka Flocka.
Yeah, Wild Boy.
Yes, so he had a big hit, but other than that, he really never took off. Like as a hip hop, he was okay. He could rhyme, and he had some decent stuff, but he never popped off like Puffy thought he might. Like Puffy, because he was signed to Bad Boy. So
But
I could see how they would make the transition.
Yeah, but I just what other artists besides white rappers?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like you
come
don't
on the scene with two albums being a rap, being a
but that's what I'm saying.
rocker, and then they're a rapper or something.
What, like you don't see like a black metal band that changes over to a hip hop guy. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I think that's because for a white guy to succeed in hip hop is way more difficult. Like a black guy in a black band in metal could succeed. So, I mean, they have to be good, obviously, but I think it's easier for them to succeed in rock music than it is for a white guy to succeed and have like longevity.
Yeah,
in it.
I get what you're saying now, but no, but I'm not arguing that. What I'm saying is these people just found themselves in a place. In other words, like I don't know the history, but I guess Puffy signed MGK.
Yeah.
So like I think with some of these guys, there's a little gimmick they're trying, like in other words, like they're trying, like they really want to be performers of some kind. Like if you take MGK, he clearly wants to be an actor too. He sees himself as a guy who's wants to perform, and he somehow ends up going the avenue of rap, which would be something that I would say theoretically, if you have no other musical talents at the moment, like if like as a white guy, what I mean is you could put your you could rap over top of a beat. You don't have to fucking know how to play an instrument. And if someone comes along and sees that you have a thing, they can kind of like somebody else can write your music, you could whatever. And I feel like there was a ploy for a lot of people that wanted that next Eminem. They people have just like, you know, you might do it in any other avenue, there is a thing that people have tried to do, just even like Vanilla Ice be a perfect example. They made him. Suge Knight hung his ass out a fucking window. You know what I mean? Because he wasn't real, but he was created by people because they wanted to get that.
Get it one. All right, Lord. Yeah. A
Am I
different
making
audience.
sense? Yeah. And so,
Mhm.
so in other words, Vanilla Ice might have really been wanted to be like a Sugar Ray or something. And he just found, like, in other words, I'm not saying that it wouldn't have been easier for him to start a punk rock band, but if you're somebody that doesn't know how to play the guitar, that's not like, you know what I mean? Like some people just, I've seen it, you've seen it. Like I've seen it in our neighborhoods. Like you get these guys that think they can fucking rap, you know what I mean? But maybe every once in a while, there's somebody who can rap a little bit, and somebody like Puffy comes along and says, I can make this dude into something, and this guy will just ride with it, and then it doesn't really work out. But by that point, they've been in the world. They're like I think with Post Malone, for example, it's like he's been learning how he became famous, but he's been while he became famous as a rapper and then used that that you know, like the access he now had to try and do things that he actually wanted to do originally. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and dude, I also think
I didn't say there's something wrong with it.
and I also like I think certain people are just natural born stars. Like I think I'm not a huge fan of MGK, but I can see the star appeal. Like Danny said, he's in the movies, like, and he did pretty good in the movies. So like I can see the star appeal. So I could see how like you kind of transition. I mean, you could look at somebody like Kanye and like as a hip hop artist, he's kind of like evolved and done some like kind of like I guess it's still hip hop, but like some of his albums like he released the gospel album.
Correct. R&B
Um
album. Yeah.
and like even when he released the 808
R&B.
like that was different than his other projects.
Would you relate? Am I non music, like whatever, historically musical, whatever, but would you relate Kanye West in any way, shape, or form to what's his name? Dre 3000 or whatever? Like, in other words,
Andre
like,
3000, yeah, from
yeah,
Outkast.
like not that they're comparable in their actual talent or whatever, but like kind of still the same, but yet went into some very weird place.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. They definitely think outside the box and
Yeah.
play with new sounds.
But somehow they didn't change. Like they did and they didn't. You know what I mean? Like,
Correct.
Uh I mean, I don't know. I don't really know that you can really compare Kanye to anybody.
but and I don't think you compare.
Like well no, because I think Andre 3000 and Lil Wayne style, they look similar in their style, like fashion wise. Like even Andre 3000, like when he first came out, he didn't look like he does now.
Well, I meant musically. Like started
Even
out as
music.
just kind of a
Yeah.
rapper.
Well, not even musically. In that case, Andre 3000 doesn't even hold a candle to Kanye.
Yeah, but they both
Not
grew.
even.
They both grew in their sound or whatever, and they both. But yet at the same time, they still.
They both became more melodic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see the comparison. I don't even because he had like Hey Ya, which is that's different than you know, uh, anything really he was kind of doing with Outkast earlier, but I don't know. Maybe I didn't listen to enough of his like newer stuff. Lyrically, he's got it over Kanye.
So much. Whew.
Yeah, I mean, he's an incredible lyricist, but as far as like style and like creativity, like Kanye, which for years I wasn't really a big fan of his, but I I can't deny like the impact that he's had on hip hop and culture in general, like is just insane.
Dude, could you imagine though? Could you imagine like that, like to become the celebrity that these guys have become and to be someone like Kanye, where like you are a little fucking out there and you're that big, but your music is that good, I guess. That like no matter how much they try and fucking get you, like it doesn't matter.
The thing about Kanye too, like I think musically he's fell off a little bit. Like I don't think his recent stuff is anything like College Dropout or anything like that.
Yeah.
But just his influence and his impact, like
Yes.
I mean, even now with this
Are you kidding?
Sorry.
he released this new album and put it out on like some stream player, some
Which I like. It's taking back the music industry from because did you ever see that stat that the music industry got paid maybe like 85%, and I think it was something like that. The artists only got paid like 13%,
oh yeah, it's
and
wild.
the
That's
rest of
crazy.
it went to the music industry.
Oh yeah.
Dude, they would
So
have
he's
to
trying to
pay
take
for
back-
their own stuff. They would make these contracts where it would be like you get 14 cents a CD, and then here's your $200,000 bonus thing. And they would go out and spend that bonus thing and everything. And then at the end, when everything's all said and done, instead of getting a check, they would get a bill for $500,000. And it would be for their tour bus, for all their dinners. Like that. That's how they like. It was so bad. I don't know how some of these people broke through in the end. You know what I mean?
Correct.
What's it called? The stem player, I think.
Yeah, it's something to that effect.
And like I didn't even know. Like I heard something that he was talking about. He was going to release on a new platform, but this is an actual like in comparison to like an iPod, right?
Correct.
So like I don't even understand it. Like I don't even know what the fuck's going on. I don't know where you buy it. Like I don't know where.
On a website, it's gonna kind of be like what was that old website called where people were stealing music, were downloading music illegally?
LimeWire or Napster.
Napster, yeah.
Napster, yeah, it's something to that effect.
Yeah, but this is like a physical, like.
Yeah, you
I
can't
mean,
take it. I don't think you can't take it off the app, but you can listen to it on. It's gonna be kind of it's kind of weird to explain, but you can only listen to it on the app or the website.
Well, see how we were talking about like the attacks on Rogan, the cancel culture stuff, people attacking Kanye, whatever else. But then you just said the music industry used to get 85% of your money, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Well, this is what people don't realize what's going on in the world right now. Like, not, I mean, I think we do, but a lot of people don't. And what it is, bro, entertainment used to be Stephen Colbert show, the late night, David Letterman, Johnny Carson. And these same people own the music industry. Like CBS probably owns some company that also owned the music industry and everything. So if you really think this whole industry in music got changed in the past 10 years, and now you got TV changing with the avenues of podcasts and stuff like that. And so basically an industry that used to make 85% of, some huge amount of money is now on the other side of that. You know what I mean? Like in every avenue of media, it's like the podcast and like iTunes and people being able to directly sell their stuff to their audience. Like there was a time where you couldn't be a comedian unless Johnny Carson let you have 5 minutes, or we would never know if you were a good artist unless Puff Daddy signed you, or even go beyond Puff Daddy. Like Puff Daddy, there might have been 20 guys like Puff Daddy who were turned down because CBS, Viacom, whatever, decided that this was going to be their guy, and there was no other avenue for you except for you becoming a documentary 20 years later about the guy who, or like something like Wu-Tang. I remember when I used to work with a couple of people that were trying to sell their own CD and stuff, the only way to make any type of thing noticed was you'd have to make your own CD and make sure you had a barcode and make sure you recorded your sales, because companies would tell you all day long they don't like you, but then if you have proof that you're selling, it wasn't even that means that you're good. They didn't like the idea of somebody selling 100,000 copies out of the trunk of their car because that's money that they wanted. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so the thing is I think you're looking at a big power struggle of these people in power that used to own all these conglomerates trying to find a way to get a grip back on things. And hence even somebody like Joe Rogan getting attacked. It's like who's more powerful, Joe Rogan or Jimmy Kimmel? That used to be the other way around immensely, and then so Joe Rogan's got millions and gazillions of viewers. Jimmy Kimmel's got 500,000 on a night. And Joe Rogan has a guy that does his computer and one guest and maybe somebody else works on his show. And so these people are trying to grasp back because they want to get control, not only of maybe the narrative of it all, but they want to get control. They want Joe Rogan to go away so that they can find a way to get their hands on controlling podcasts and music again. You know what I mean? And so I think that's something that we're experiencing. That's why everybody's under attack. Because if you look at the people that are under attack, there are people that are doing their own thing. Like Kanye West is $1 billion business within himself,
Oh yeah. I mean, that's what's the craziness of Kanye. Like I had a buddy of mine who years ago was like, dude, he's huge. I love him, blah, blah. And I was like, he had good songs, but like, I just didn't see it. But the sneaker shit, the everything, man, you can't not give it to the guy. Like he's on another level. And artistically, some of the things like I saw like visually and everything that he's doing recently on some of the performances are dope. I do think it's weird. I wonder, it's like this weird thing because now he's going after Kim and Skeet, Pete Davidson. And I'm like, I wonder if this whole thing is like publicity, if it's all planned to promote this album and all that stuff. Or because like I saw a bunch of people tweeting like we're witnessing male privilege and this, that, and the other, like how he's harassing a woman in real time and people are cheering him on. And I'm like, maybe he's right. Like, there could be a possibility that everything he's saying is fucking legit. You know what I'm saying? Like, he criticized Kim for some of the moves that she made. Well, she made her career off of a fucking sex tape about showing her ass off. Like, so like when she puts her kids on TikTok and in lipstick, and Kanye's like, nah, man, I don't want my kids on the internet. I don't want them in lipstick, like, and being, sexually objective. Like, I don't want that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And he sounds crazy because he goes off on Instagram, whatever. And Kim's like, oh my God, like just leave Pete alone. And I'm like, you can kind of see both sides, but this is again, these dynamics about identity politics and like this male privilege of what Kanye's doing, and he's oppressing Kim and I'm like, why can't she be the crazy one? Maybe she is. Like she puts on the cute smile. She knows how to sell it to the cameras. Kanye's just being who the fuck he is. Maybe he's actually legit in the shit that he's saying. Like,
well, who has more talent?
Oh, without a doubt, it's Kanye.
So like, this is what listen, and I don't 100% agree with what I'm about to say in the sense of like, I'm just saying it to make the argument, but it's like, I mean, let's take a look at it from a bird's eye view. Kanye West, I'm assuming had a hard time coming up, trying to get his music out. Sure, he had to fight and do things and be disciplined and whatever else. Kim Kardashian came from a family of money, had sex with a guy. The tape got out. She's got a great ass. She's sexy. She's got money. So whether she's naturally beautiful or not. I'm sure she is, but also money helps that stuff. So all she really has as a product is her sex appeal. You know what I mean?
Right.
And what she's actually done masterfully is learn how to sell her sex appeal. And that's
Right.
it. The thing that makes her different is she's learned how to turn her sex appeal into $1 billion industry. And personally, I kind of think she's a cool person. She's actually cooler than you think she would be as watching her on like SNL or something like that. However, at the end of the day, I wouldn't say she's an ideal candidate to be someone who I'd want mentoring my daughter. You know what I mean?
1,000%. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and that's just from a bird's eye view. I mean, I don't maybe Kanye's completely crazy and whatever else, but
Listen,
You know what the
funny
you know
how
what the best. Oh, go ahead, Tom.
no, go ahead, man.
No, I was gonna say, what was the best quote from Kanye in that documentary, and what
I gotta,
it blew my mind. So I told you at the beginning they were filming him from the right before he got signed, and the cameraman was following him everywhere. And Kanye was the most bashful, nicest, most humblest dude you could ever meet. You couldn't meet a nicer guy,
Right.
right? But of course, his first album was college dropout, and then it was late registration.
Right.
On the heels of we're not even on the heels prior to late registration coming out. Like I said, the dude, the camera, I think his name is Cootie. He's following him everywhere with the camera. And what blows my mind is the quote he says, because he was recording everything that he did, his day to day as an artist, wherever he went, every award, everything. And then it comes to a point where Kanye says, "Look, man, I don't want you recording me anymore because I don't want people to know the real Kanye. I want the media to have their own perception of who they think the real Kanye is." And so because you know what it was, he wanted to release the documentary after the dude who recorded with the camera, he wanted to release the documentary after the late registration that came out, and Kanye told him no, because I don't want them to know who the real Kanye is. I want the media to have their own perception of who they think the real Kanye is. And I was like, that's kind of deep. That's kind of mind blowing.
not only
So
is it,
it all.
not only is
Go
it
ahead.
mind blowing, but I don't think that I think I'm intelligent or whatever else, but I don't think I would have saw that many steps into the future. Like if us three got like some type of record deal right now, and then some guy came along and was like, "Hey, I could also sell this documentary about you guys. I've been following you for 4 years now." I'd be like, "Yeah, cool." You know what I mean? But he had the bigger vision. You know what I mean? Like
But
not yet. I want to. I like. I'm assuming he stopped the guy from releasing it, in whether they're just friends and he stopped them or whatever. But it's
that
like,
year, yeah, that year.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
But you know what I'm saying? Like in other words, like to see that far ahead, like
Oh yeah.
I would think, oh well, you think it's ready. You know what I mean? Then get the documentary out there. But for Kanye to say, wait, I don't want the people to see the real me right now. I'd rather have, let this thing play that. I think that's genius just to understand that even would be something. I wouldn't even think that. You know what I mean?
Well, one of the major reasons why I got released now, I know you heard about his album that came out last year, Donda, named after his mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the documentary also said he was following Kanye everywhere, and Kanye always had his mom around. So it has a lot to do with his mom. His mom is in there, and
Understood. Yeah.
oh, you're gonna cry because she's rapping she knows all his lyrics by heart, and she's rapping it to him. And Kanye, you can do anything you want, just put your mind to it. All of that, you're gonna cry when you see it. But so that's one of the reasons why it's been released now. It's promotion for the Donda 2 album that's named after his
Right.
mom. So
Right.
that's So that's one of the biggest reasons why.
Now,
Yeah, I keep saying it, and I'm like, I gotta watch this. I gotta check it out.
I'll tell you what though, this has been long.
Oh yeah. It
Yeah.
it's two
I don't,
parts.
but no. It's going to be one part. But I'd say, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready for bed.
Yeah. No, I got to get up early and everything.
But
But
number one thing is, bro, I love having you on, man. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah.
It's really great to get to know you and meet you. I hope we didn't talk over you too much today. But
I like listening. That's one thing before we do go. I want to do. That's one thing I do want to thank y'all about. Is like and I think Tommy already knows about this too. Is just I think Tommy and 100 Days of Summer, right?
yeah.
I want to thank y'all for like opening my eyes. Even though I may not agree with everything y'all say, it's still enough of a spectrum of, well, okay, opening my eyes. I don't believe everything I'm fed. I like to do my own research a lot of times, and
Right.
I want
Right.
to thank and Danny too. I want to thank all y'all for
well,
giving me
I
that perspective.
Yeah.
yeah, man.
No.
Hey, I thank you. I thank you for coming on, bro, and like helping us. Like, I still think you're the coolest interaction that we've had on this podcast,
Oh,
just in the sense that like we made a friend. You know what I mean?
oh yeah, 1000%, 1000.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's the one thing. I mean, obviously, like with us starting a podcast, like we didn't really know exactly what the fuck we were doing. We didn't know where we were gonna take it and all that. And you know, for me, the one thing that I'm proud of is that we're sticking to it. We're not selling products. We're not making a bunch of money, but it's a small thing. You know what I mean? Like Danny and I are both kind of creative people. Like I think it's good to kind of to do something to
Yeah.
express yourself. And the second part is, yeah, man, like meeting you and actually able to have you on, like that was such a cool experience because again, like for anybody that maybe didn't hear the first time we had Jay on, you know, getting into an argument with somebody online is super easy. To transform that into, Jay reaching out and be like, hey man, good conversation, blah, 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 blah. And then to actually be like, hey, come on the podcast and let's talk it out. Because again, like I was saying earlier about that other guy that I got in an argument with, when he made his comment, like I sat there and I kind of didn't know what to fucking say. And usually I'm like, blah, 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 like ready to respond. And that dude kind of got me because he made me think. And I'm like, maybe he's right. Maybe my approach to this is wrong. Like I don't even know. But I'm like, I don't know. But I had to think a little bit about it. And there's certainly times where not as often as I used to, but there's definitely times where maybe I get in a little disagreement, argument, debate with somebody online. And it might even take me a couple days later. I'll still be thinking about it. And I'll be like, you know what? Maybe I was wrong, or maybe this, or maybe this person's perspective is something that I need to consider. And I don't know, man. This is proof that more people can do it. Like the relationship that we were able to build with you and coming on here, dude. Like we may disagree on a lot of things, but you could still have a mutual agreement and a common bond of like the way humanity should go and just and enjoying hip hop, enjoying music, enjoying movies, sports. Like there's other avenues that like that can kind of unify us more.
But and also understanding that like we don't we don't necessarily we don't necessarily need to agree with each other to
Right.
get along and still have a friendship. And also what I think is kind of cool is for me, like in a simpler format of it, it's like, you get into this thing where you're like social media, the way the world's going, the internet, all this stuff, and it's like it seems like it's bad. You get wrapped up in how bad it is, but then like in reality, we have this technology that's amazing and that we can connect with people from all over the place instantaneously and communicate. And it's like cool to see that like, you know, for the thousands of bad interactions that are going on, it's still
Hmm.
pretty cool to see that there's there's here's us utilizing that kind of access to communication in a way that was positive, you know?
Right.
All right, everyone. Thank you again
Yeah.
for tuning in. Jay, man, always a pleasure.
King
We'll,
Poe. What is it?
yes.
You follow him? What are you on? Is it at King Poe?
I've been changing my name so much.
I know.
My new YouTube name. I hope you guys like it. I haven't made it yet, but it's going to be 1990 Poe.
1990 Poe. All right.
Yeah.
And then what's your Instagram right now?
Everybody knows Poe.
Everybody knows Poe. All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good. And
go follow them. Go follow Fatherhood Coffee Company.
yeah,
Not Fatherhood. He's gonna hate me. He's gonna be like, dude, you didn't promote it the right way. It's Fatherhood Coffee.
all publicity's good publicity.
Yeah.
Tom, what was your favorite kind of the coffee that there was there?
Well, right now I'm having the dark roast.
What was the word? Come on, you never said it.
Oh, didn't I? I don't even Arabica. Arabica.
Yeah, you
I
never.
don't even remember. We had to Google it. And you know what? I don't even feel stupid about it because I guarantee there's a lot of motherfuckers out there that cannot pronounce that.
I still can't pronounce it.
Yeah.
But, all right, guys. King Poe. Everybody knows Poe on Instagram, and 1990 Poe on YouTube coming soon. And Fatherhood Coffee, whatever, even though I'm saying everything 37 more times than I need to. All right, love you guys. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe. And great talking to you guys. And King Poe, sooner than later, we need to do this again.
Right. Anytime, man. Anytime you want to have me on.
All right, brother.
Peace out, guys.
Later, guys.